the consent items.
And I was going to make a motion to move them up so our students didn't have to stay late in case they needed to get home. I was gonna make a motion to move them up to 5A and 5B.
Move
Move
what?
5A and 5B up.
I think both will do the same thing.
Okay.
Whether you move those two things down to the bottom, or you move, either way, you're doing the
Okay.
same thing. You'll get folks out of here.
Okay. I'll make a second on Chad's motion then.
Okay, is there any more discussion on that? If not, can we vote? Unanimous? I would like to welcome everybody. I skipped over that. I'd like to welcome, we have a good crowd here tonight. It's good to see everybody here. I'm the vice chairman. I can't do a good job, so just bear with me. I'll do the best I can. And we'll move on then to the election of a board chairman. Does anyone have a?
Just a point of information, sir. The election of the board chair, that's for a one-year term, so it will start immediately upon being voted in, and then that person will assume the duties of the board chair. If you don't elect the board chair this evening, then we can put that off to the next meeting, and we'll see everybody will stay in the same seat that they're
I
currently
was
in.
told that we couldn't even have a meeting until we elected a chairperson and a vice
No.
chair.
You have a board chair that's a one-year term. The board chair stays in position until you elect somebody new. We have to have that in order to go forward as a body politic. You're a corporation, in effect. And so the answer is, as explained by the superintendent, you have officers at this point, but you're in your organizational meeting, which your policy calls for being held in January. So you need to find out if you can elect here tonight a board chair. If you can. If you cannot, then we will have to take it up either at a special board meeting or at a regular board meeting. So,
But the meeting can continue with
Yes,
the
yes.
officers already in place.
yes.
I would like to make a motion to continue Alex Tange as board chairperson.
I'll second that motion. Is there any more discussion on it? Okay, let's vote on it. Okay, we have two yes, pardon me?
I'll be voting no.
I was gonna say that. We have two yeses and one no, so that's a no vote. We cannot, we have to have at least three. So, that is a no vote. And, vice chairman,
I would make a motion for Richard Wilson to continue as vice chairperson.
looks like that's dead in the water, okay.
Yeah.
We don't have that. Election of board legislative representative.
Now that is, I'd like to explain about that one. That is not in our policies anywhere, that position. I believe it's historically been someone you all have appointed to represent you at, if there's a legislative issue going on in the session, that you want someone to go to Frankfurt and be a spokesman for the board on that particular issue. But it is not specified in any of our policies and procedures, that procedure. So if it's something you all want to continue, by all means, elect someone, but it's not a required position.
We did not have that last year, right? Am I correct?
I actually held that position last year, but I mean, I'll be real honest, I did nothing with it. I'm not real good with politics and conforming to everything, so I really didn't do anything with it.
So is that a position that we really do not have to fill, the legislative
Yeah,
position?
there's nothing in our policies and procedures that says we have to have that position.
All right. On the basis of that, then let's skip on to H, which is appointment of a board secretary.
Okay, our policy on this one says it can be anyone except a regular member of the board. It may be the superintendent. If it is the superintendent, The superintendent cannot receive any extra compensation for fulfillment of those duties. And it is an appointment from 1 to 4 year term.
I'll move to appoint, Mr. Huber to that position.
I'll second that motion.
Any more discussion? Vote? Unanimous. I did skip
You
over
skipped
one,
you, yes, sir.
and that's the election of the board treasurer.
Okay, on this one, Mr. Wilson, it says, our policy says it may be the secretary, but honestly, if you look at the duties and description of the position, it should be the finance officer, in my opinion, so.
And I might add, in the other districts I represent, they generally have the finance officer in that position.
I will move to, have Mr. Gamble fulfill that position.
I'll second that motion.
Any more discussion? No, let's vote. Unanimous? Okay, the attorney's contract. As you know, we've had Mr. Crawford, our attorney, for many years, and he has other districts, and very experienced in it. And I would like to nominate Mr. Crawford as the board attorney.
His,
Can I address
Offer.
the board on the issue for a second?
yeah, I was gonna say, a copy of his offer should be in your board packet.
I want to indicate that I did send a letter out, which is my practice every year, to all 3 of the boards that I represent, indicating that I'll represent the board for $100 an hour. I want to explain to the board that with the auditor's office within the past year, there has been an issue apparently in one of the school districts over the hiring of the board attorney and whether or not the board attorney's contract should set out specifically all of the various things that the board expects the attorney to do for the district, and the board approve all of that before the attorney begins doing it. It's been quite a debate between KSBA attorneys, John Fogel and Mr. Young down there, and some of the rest of the people that have got gray hair like myself that have done this for a long time. I have not written out a contract as I do for some of my clients because frankly, and I think you all know this, but I want to make sure you know it on the record, that I do a lot of advising to your district in the form of talking to your superintendent. I may get a telephone call from a building principal about an issue. Your special ed person, as you're well aware of, because we've dealt with this in the past year, may call me more than once a week on a special ed problem. So my point here is that it'd be a little hard to sit down a contract and tell you ahead of time all the different legal issues that I might have to give advice on or deal with. So I'm telling you that unless you tell me different, I am trying to advise your people that call me within the district on the legal issues that they call me about. And I'm trying to keep your district out of any type of a lawsuit or any litigation. I take it that that's what you all want me to do unless you tell me differently. And that's been traditionally what I've done. I have detailed billing that you receive monthly so that you can look at and tell me whether or not you've got any issue with my bill. And if you do, we'll address it right here in open meeting each time, and I'll stop doing what you tell me you don't want me doing if there's an issue with it. Otherwise, I'm not going to try to spell out all this stuff in a contract. So I'm telling you that by way of putting on the record, and that's what I've done in Carroll County and Owen County, given that the auditor's office suggested that we ought to be pre-approving all this stuff. I really don't know how to get it pre-approved. And so I think what I just said to you would be more than ample. The second thing I want to point out to you, because this has also evidently been a point of contention around the state, that $100 an hour, always been the understanding that's from my office up here and back. And so you are paying, in addition for the legal advice and the time, your time, so there's travel time in here. So it's, I think again, you can look, it's generally 20 or 25 minutes It's not normally broken down, but it's all in the rate. So I tell you that by way of open disclosure here, that there's nothing you don't understand about it. And if you do have a problem or an issue, I say to you, just simply bring it up with me and I will deal with it.
Is this the same contract that you've been working under for the past?
Yes, sir, and basically, when we use the terminology contract, as you'll see, it's just a letter saying that I am willing to work for you for the upcoming year at $100 an hour rate, and it doesn't say anything more than that. And so that's why there's been some dispute about whether it should be a more lengthy contract setting out everything I do. And the problem with that is that it's not easy to list out everything that might come up at any one time.
I believe as far as the contract as it stands, though, I think we should at least add the travel time in that contract.
We can
So,
do that.
I mean, that's
We can
something
do that.
simple, I think, because that is one thing the state auditors are getting folks on.
And with your permission, I'll take the copy of the letter there and I'll add a sentence. This is, the travel time will be at the same rate from office back.
And
I'll write it in.
I think another thing we could do, as far as to protect the district, not implying anything whatsoever in all due respect, is to put a cap on maybe who does call you before it gets to
That's what I
the
was gonna say.
superintendent.
Well,
It's
let
a
me
simple
address
cap
that,
we
and
could put on that.
That's a fair question, a good question. And what has happened in the past is the superintendents talk to staff and they give permission to those that can talk to me without going through the superintendent's office. That's been my experience.
Yeah, I think we probably do need to put that in the letter, Jim, just because
Okay.
those were one of the key findings of the auditor, state auditor's report was how we handle professional service contracts, who has the authority to approve work, who has, what is the travel agreement, are you charging us mileage on top of the hourly rate? You haven't been, you've just been charging us
Right.
the hourly rate, I think.
Right.
But I think we just need to spell that out since it was such a key finding in the auditor's report.
And I could do that. I'll send a letter agreement back up here now.
But I will
How do you
say,
want me to
I-
address what Chad's raising here?
I think that they need to have talked to me, and I say, yes, that's something we need to consult the board attorney on.
Okay.
Unless it's the board themselves, of course, then, of course, they feel free to call you. But the
I'll
school, the
include
school
that in the
folks
letter.
need to probably go through me, just so we've got internal control on
Okay.
billable hours. And then, on top of that, I know you give us a monthly bill, and I'll say, I've been very happy with the bill. He bills us down to the 0.1 hour, and, a lot of attorneys bill quarter hours, so
Right.
he's very fair in his billing. But I'm gonna address that in superintendent's comments of, the board needs a monthly report. I'm gonna do a monthly roll-up of all of our professional service contracts and what it costs us that month and what it costs us year to date, so that they've just got some awareness of billable hours for all of our contracts.
And I think it's great. I think it's a good idea.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor that I made, recommending Mr. Crawford as the attorney for the board. We need a second if we're gonna go
I'll
on with
second that.
We shouldn't approve the contract until he finishes the contract, though. Correct.
You can do that, or you can approve it subject to what you've just said, and I'll send it up here, and it can be circulated about the.
Would you like to change your
I'll
motion to the
I'll
pending?
second that motion, with the stated changes that Mr. Crawford and Mr. Huber have talked about, and Mr. Murray.
All right, is there any more discussion on that? If not, let's vote. Unanimous. All right, we have
Meeting calendar.
the approval of the 2015 Board of Education meeting calendar. And
For the last couple of months, we've been presenting this to you all for, just so you'd have previous time to think about it. We've presented three options. One is to continue two monthly regular meetings, just like you have been. Option two was to have one regular meeting and one working session. And of course, you can't take any official action at a working session, but you can have a lot of discussion and do a lot of preliminary work, hash out details. And the third option is to simply go do one regular business meeting a month.
I would like to see us do the two business meetings, going to one working session, one business meeting. The taxpayers are not getting as much for the buck because, we can't do any business and approve things. So as much things I think we need to be working on moving forward, I would like to see us do two business meetings. I'll move that we do that.
Okay, we have a motion on the,
Let me point out that this schedule that we have presented you puts, all the meeting dates are Tuesdays, correct? So we are changing the meeting date to Tuesday. Ms. Giles, you had asked about conflicting, knocking other meetings out of the library. I talked with Ms. Oldenbeck today, and there are no conflicting meeting dates that would conflict with these board meeting dates. Another concern, that has been expressed by community members about moving to a Tuesday night is, there's a lot of athletic events on Tuesday nights, basketball games, et cetera. So, if people are here and want to go to the sporting events, there is some conflict with that. Just so you can weigh that into your decision about whether we really want to move to Tuesday nights, but that seemed to work best for everybody's working schedules.
I'm okay with, Tuesday nights except for where you said about the athletic meetings. Can we, can this be tabled until, can we just set a meeting for the next meeting and table this until Mr. Tanch has a,
Let me explain to you what I think is your problem. And again, you can do what you're suggesting, but the reason we have a January organizational meeting and you try to get your officers in place, one of the big things that you try to do in the January organizational meeting is set your Board of Education regular meetings each month so that they're posted for the public and the public will know, and you satisfy the open meeting statute. To the extent that we don't do that, then we're relegated that every meeting is a special call meeting. That's okay, but you can't add anything to the agenda if it's going to be a special call meeting by board policy, state law. So, as you're well aware, this is a school district and stuff comes up at the last minute and you need to act on it. You need to get in a position to get it added to an agenda. And the only way you can do that is to get your calendar for regular meetings adopted and posted. And then if you need a special meeting over and above those times, you can do it. Now, having said that, that's my legal responsibility to explain that to you. However you guys want to do it, it's fine.
Yeah, really the only 3 months that affects us is during basketball season, which is, December, January, February. So other than that, it's not gonna have a main effect. And, we're gonna continue to post our videos online, so any member of the public that wants to see what took place at the board meeting has the option to view the video.
if
I
we,
noticed on this, one copy that I have with the red ink on it, that it says all meetings begin at 5 p.m., and that's incorrect. It should be 6 p.m.
Yes. We need to put that in motion. We'll put the day, time in which
So,
meeting
Chad,
schedule.
let me hear your motion
My
again.
motion would be to accept the 2 business meetings a month at the stated time of 6 o'clock p.m. on Tuesdays.
Regular
For the
business,
calendar.
business meetings,
Yes, sir.
no working sessions. Okay, does anyone second that?
for my motion, I would, second that.
Okay, any more discussion on it? All right, let's vote. We're gonna have 2 regular scheduled meetings per month at 6 p.m. here at the middle school library. Let the record show. All right, now we've moved up, let me get this straight. We have moved up 5 to go before 3.
No, we moved A and B to the
Now wait,
end of.
now wait. Sonia wants to move student learning services. Your
I think the motion
flowers,
made,
was that your motion?
The motion,
Isn't that your motion?
well, Chad's was the same, pretty much the same.
Chad said the same thing, but
His
it
is
moved.
moving back.
Yeah, it moved A and B, so we need to do board member recognition next, and then we'll go to written communications and then superintendent report. So you can just mark these 2 off for right now, and then we'll put those back behind.
So the first,
6:30.
next thing we have then is board member recognition.
Yes. Glad we got a big crowd here for Board Recognition Month. Your board members work hard. You don't understand the number of hours they put in between board meetings, reviewing the voluminous amount of documents that we send them electronically, and the communications on the phone, answering phone calls from concerned constituents of theirs, citizens of Gallatin County. They do a great job of communicating, and they've made my first few months here on the job extremely easy. I've got a small token of the district's appreciation I'd like to give them. It says, Special Service Award presented to Chad Murray, school board member, in grateful recognition of your continuing service and support to the students and staff of Gallatin County Schools. Mr. Murray, it's been a great pleasure. Thank you very much. This one's presented to Sonia Giles. Same token. Sonia, thank you very much. Wilson? Christian is a non-voting student member of our board. He's been the student voice to us, keeps us grounded in what we should really be focused on. A couple of times he's pulled my attention back from big picture to individual student needs, and he even said students need more development in the area of communication, and I've really taken that to heart. So we're going to incorporate a lot of that next year in our improvements. So Christian, thank you, sir. Board members, you've got quite a few items in front of you from the students and staff of all the schools have given you gifts from the big thank you cards that the students have made. I think that's from the upper elementary. So very nice. To a bottle of Mountain Dew that says thank you for everything you do. So thank you. And then I'm not sure what came in the bags, or who was that from? Upper Elementary as well? Okay, so lots of tokens from the school, because they understand the number of hours that you all put in. So very much appreciated.
Thanks to everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
All right, now, where are we?
That takes us to 4C, written communications.
Is that what you,
Yeah, we just wanted to do all the student stuff before we got into the...
all right.
We don't really have any written communications, so we're going to move on to superintendent's report. I just wanted to bring to light a couple of issues and where we stand. First, on the empty board member seat. We do have several more people have applied for that position through the Department of Education. I think another gentleman even called today. The position was supposed to have closed on the 20th, January 20th. We still only had one applicant, and the gentleman at KDE who is in charge of that was going to be out of the office for 10 days. And he said, let's just leave it open for another 10 days and see if we get any more applications in. If an application lands on my desk by the time I return to work, then we'll consider all those applicants. When this all started, he said they needed 2 people to apply before they would even begin the interview process. So the last I heard, we may have 3 applicants. I don't know their names. He didn't tell me that. He just said there were 3 applicants. So hopefully his 10 days should be up in another 7 days or so. Hopefully then when he returns to the office, he'll contact me and let me know when they're going to start conducting interviews. And maybe by the second meeting in February, we'll have this board seat filled.
Good.
Now, just a reminder, that person will serve in that role for the remainder of this year. There will be an election to fill the remainder of that term in November. So tell all your friends and neighbors that are interested in that district and want to serve on the board that they can apply for that election. And I think August, I believe, is when they can file. Is that right?
The
August?
deadline's
In August. And then they will fill out the 3 years remaining in that term seat. So that's where we stand on that. Another piece of good news. This year, and maybe they started it last year, honestly I'm not sure, but our high school students can use a service where they submit their transcripts online to universities. If you look at the surrounding counties, Gallatin County High School students have submitted a total of 222 transcripts online to universities. So that means our kids are out there and they're looking to go on to the next level and go to the post-secondary level. The next closest school to us, high school around here, is Carroll County with 138. So you can see how motivated our kids are getting their information out to these schools and looking to move to that post-secondary education. So I thought that was something made me feel good to know that the kids are using that service and getting the information out there. High school academic.
I would just like to say on that, that's a direct result of what Mrs. Booth has done and what Mr. Jones is
Yes.
continuing
Yeah.
at the high school.
The high school academic team, they had an undefeated season this year, so we wanted to recognize them. Our board agenda was jam-packed, so what I did was I wrote a letter to each of the students and sent it to their house, congratulating them on an undefeated season and telling them how proud we were of them, and we look forward to them doing great things. They came in second place in the district Governor's Cup competition this last weekend, and we got a bunch of students. We actually had a first place in written composition. That was Beth Carpenter. She did I think that's the third year in a row she's taken first in the district writing competition, so that's great. They will be competing in the regional Governor's Cup competition on February 14th. So somebody doesn't value Valentine's Day very well. But, we'll be there to support our kids as they do great things, and that's going to be held at Oldham County at one of their schools there. The middle school Governor's Cup team also took second place in their competition, so we're extremely proud of them. They'll also be moving on to the regional competition. I'm not sure exactly what the date on that one is, but we'll also be there to support them as they continue their great work. Of course, the biggest bonnet and the feather for the week is the high school girls basketball team going to the Class A. They'll be playing tomorrow night at 8 p.m. at Frankfurt in the Coliseum downtown. So look forward to a good turnout there as the girls take us on to the next level, because I don't have any doubt they're going to win. And I told Coach I expect to be there Sunday watching them play in the championship game. So we'll see if they can hold true to that. I did want to report that we have hired Kelly Gamble. Introduce him. This is Mr. Gamble in the front row. He is a retired finance director from Kenton County. Got that right that time, didn't I?
That's right.
For some reason, every time I say it, Boone County comes out of my mouth. But Kenton County, we're extremely glad to have him part of the team. He's jumped on board, already made some significant improvements to the finance operation procedures there, and we got some other things planned that we look at doing, so extremely glad to have him on board. Ron Mural update. If you'll notice, 2 months ago, we had on here a payment to close out the Wildcat Academy. You'll notice that is not back on the agenda yet, because we still do not have a satisfactory answer to the questions that we've asked. We just started really getting communication again from him yesterday. There is some progress being made. The subcontractors that Endeavor used in the work have come forward again, had conversations with myself and Mr. Crawford. They are still not happy. They have still not been paid. So we're not going to put that back on the agenda until we get some reasonable resignation or resolution to that issue, because I'm telling you, the subcontractors really aren't happy. There is a couple of still small items on the punch list that we're working through. One of them honestly may end up, we're trying to figure out exactly where the breakdown in communication occurred between them and us on that whole box in the press box, but we think we've worked a reasonable solution to that as well. There's a switch box up there, there's a big box, and our switch we bought won't fit in the box they installed. They're saying we bought a different switch than what we originally told them, so we're looking at dates on when all that communication transpired. But I think we've come up with a solution that moves that box into another room altogether and solves the problem. So we're working with him on that. But we're not going to put that item back on here until we get better information from Endeavor. Let's see. Board videos. You know, we record all the board meetings. Those are on our website for anybody who wants to go back and look at a previous board meeting. All the videos are on there. video takes up a lot of server space. Right now, I believe we go all the way back to
2011.
2011. What I'm going to recommend to the board is we keep 2 years of videos on file. So we would delete anything prior to that. The open records, or the records retention schedule says we only have to keep them until the minutes are approved at the next meeting. But I would still like to keep up to 2 years on there, if that's okay with you guys. We'll just keep a running 2-year list on there. And I think that gives people plenty of time to go back and look at historical discussions along the way. But if you all want something different than that, then obviously we can burn them to CDs or thumb drives, but they're going to be,
We can
a lot
burn
of
the
them.
CDs and archive them in our records.
yeah, but there's
They
really
must
no,
be removed from the server.
there's no legal requirement for us to do that, but I think it's nice to have that historical, because like I said, it was helpful to me coming on board new, to be able to go back and look at those videos for a year. So I do think keeping them for 2 years is fairly reasonable and gives us that historical perspective to go back and look if we need to.
We need a motion.
No, I mean, it's just, I'll just take some guidance. If you guys want to keep them for 3 years, we can, but, you know, since 2011, that's a lot of video. Any thoughts or?
I think the 2 years is fair enough if everyone else.
2 years is fine with me.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm okay with 2 years.
And the only other thing I had, I think that was it. That's all I've got, Mr. Wilson.
Okay. So that includes the superintendent's report.
Yes, sir. And that takes us to the superintendent's final review.
Okay, you want to present them?
I would love to present our fine art award
All
winners.
right.
And Ms. Carpenter is going to pull the pictures up on the screen. And is this the lower elementary first? All right, this picture was done by Bradley Reed. Is Bradley here? Are you Bradley Reed? You are a fine artist, young man. Congratulations. Job well done. And this next piece of artwork is presented to you this evening from the Upper Elementary School. And it is, I'm going to mess it up, Sierra Krim. Sierra? You are a great artist, young lady. Is that a self-portrait? We should have you stand up there next to it. And our next is from the middle school. Looks like it is a watercolor, or is Hannah Sackleben? Sackleben? Is she here?
I don't see it.
Okay. We'll get that to her. And then from the high school, we have Jonathan Reed. Mr. Reed here this evening? Okay. We'll get that too. Next, we have a presentation by our high school students. I believe, Mr. Daly, you want to get us started with who you have here?
Yeah, so at the high school, we've been doing peer tutoring. I would say the last couple months of the fall semester, and we continue that on throughout this spring semester. It was an idea of the sophomore class officers. It was pretty much put together by them. I helped coordinate a couple of details, and we have minimum one teacher that stays every Tuesday and Thursday between 3 and 4 in the computer lab at the high school. Everyone is open to come. We have several peer tutors, one of which is going to talk about her experiences with it, Taylor Rowland. So I'll let her discuss.
I already told you, my name is Taylor Rowland, and I'm one of the peer tutors for after-school tutoring. And I can't stress how much this program has helped not only myself for understanding the things that I need to learn, but also it has really helped And I love being able to help out my fellow students who need as much help as I do. And it's always a really great feeling to know that you're helping someone else in some way. I've got some statistics here that kind of help you understand a little bit of our program. There have been 8 different teachers since we started this program. a total of 14 different peer tutors at different times, and 81 different students that have come for tutoring or come to work on homework or just to get stuff done, some projects. And those 81 students have been for 17 different teachers, and that's just about every teacher that we've got. So everyone knows about this. It's a great thing, and it needs to keep going because so many people are getting awesome things out of it.
Mr. Daly pretty much started this idea up at the high school. He started asking for teachers to stay after school and help out with some students. They've had a huge turnout, huge success rate, so Mr. Daly, we really appreciate you pushing that effort and getting it going, and all the teachers who helped out. But it is phenomenal that the students are comfortable and capable of carrying on that work as well. So we're going to recognize some of them tonight. And so Taylor, since you were such a fine spokesman, come on up, please. It just says, recognition of your service presented to Taylor Rowland for being a peer tutor. Thank you very much. And who else you got here with you? Shelby?
No.
Ackerman? Not here? Chloe? Chloe Geiger? 2 Chloes? CJ? No. Okay. We'll get them. I'll take them. I'll bring them up. Deliver them on Monday. Our next group of students from the high school we'd like to recognize this evening are our Layup for Lauren. Some of the students who helped with the Layup for Lauren challenge. You can see we have a lot of students help with Layup for Lauren. It was a huge success. They raised $3,610 or somewhere in that neighborhood. But for one afternoon of shooting some basketball, that's a lot of money to raise from this community. And it shows not only the drive and how helpful our students are and what a heart they have that we had this many students participate, but it also shows the giving nature of this community and how they'll pull together for a good worthy cause. So congratulations not only to all these students, and we're going to see if any of them are here. Are any of them here this evening, Mr. Jones? Who we got?
Yeah.
Alex Johnston, I bet. Come on up, Alex.
They kind of elected somebody to come be the spokesman.
Okay, you want to just kind of give them a rundown on what you all had to do to coordinate that? And
Yeah.
okay.
I am Alex Johnston, and I'm a junior at the high school, and I am in Miss Klinkenbeard's one of her anatomy classes. And we've been studying the nervous system, and we've heard about all of Lauren Hill's, all of the articles about her, which you guys probably know about Lauren Hill. She's a 19-year-old college student with an inoperable brain tumor. And through this struggle, she has made the goal to raise $1 million towards pediatric cancer that will go to the Cure Starts Now Foundation. And so she created this challenge called the Layup for Lauren Challenge. And it's really pretty simple. You go down individually and you place any donation into just a donation bin. And you're spun around 5 times, and you go out and you make a layup with your non-dominant hand. And the point in this is to kind of simulate what she feels when she plays basketball. Because of the tumor, it's really difficult, and she doesn't have very much control of her body. So we organized this weeks and weeks in advance, and her classes made videos to tell the students what we're doing and why we're doing it. And then we voted on which class had the best video, and this we showed to the entire student body. And then we made letters, and we sent them to businesses all over the community, and we had over 40 community representatives show up to the actual event, in addition to hundreds of students from the middle school and high school who participated. And the funds that we got from these donations, in addition to bracelet sales that we had on this day, we did raise, as we said, $3,610, which all went to the Cure Starts Now Foundation, which is the charity that Lauren supports. And we had a man there who represented this foundation, and he told us after the event was over that even though he had been to countless events just like it, ours was the one that had touched him the greatest.
Great job. I do have to correct Alex on one thing. She said, make a layup. If you saw me do it, I didn't even come close to making a layup. I attempted a layup, but great job, great presentation. Assistant staff school report, principals. High school principals report.
Just to add to the student recognition, we also have a group that's, our technology club is doing some Hub Ferguson research. Many of you know the sheriff that was killed while he was in duty, or on duty. And kind of what we thought about, we wanted to show you a little bit of what we think our high school is about. We're about the education part. We're about our kids learning what it's about to help others. If you're not learning to help the people that you're going to school with, then you're probably not getting the whole picture. And then the layup for Lauren also gives you, if you're not about learning how to be a member of your community and sensitive to community needs, then you're really not getting a full education. So the goal and the things we were wanting to share with you is we're not just an academic place. And if we become just an academic place, we feel like we're missing the picture. We need to have all those aspects of community life to be able to be a vibrant school and represent our community. And I think we're moving in that direction, doing a very good job with that. Most of what I'm here to talk about would be our agenda items and some things that we've done. The student achievement, a lot of that in January has not been as much academic because it's a month of transition a little bit. We've had the All-A regional tournament was held there at the high school, and for the first time we shifted that away from parents and we shifted that to students and a teacher organizing that. Christian shaking his head, he was one of those students that was there. We got unbelievable recognition around our region for the fact that we had students doing that, and they didn't just show up, they did it very well. So it was a well-run organization. Ms. Follis was in charge of that. She did a super job. And some of our community people were impressed enough, they gave her a donation of $250 for a classroom, basically out of appreciation for how good of a job she did. As you move on, obviously our girls won their all-region at Trimble County. We recognized our football players. We just got back. I made an error there. That's not WKU Honors Band. That was EKU Honors Band. Mr. Howard did not print up for me the results of that. He did tell me the results of that. We had several people make their all-state at EKU, which is a good recognition. We will be probably having some of that put out as far as publication of their success. And the other things are pretty self-explanatory. I won't read to you. Our professional development, you get into a whole lot of acronyms there, but even DILT got snowed out yesterday, so a lot of that didn't come to fruition. And the regular meetings we've had. We've tried to mainstream our faculty meetings, and where we're moving to on that is we will have once a month a faculty meeting with the teachers, and then we will have a PLC meeting once a month that I will rotate around to be being involved with their particular PLC, and trying to eliminate too much meeting time for the teachers so that they can be successful, but we want to have enough communication so they know what's going on. That's pretty much our calendar of events. Do you have our test scores, MAP scores? Now, our MAP scores, if you're not trained to look at these things a little bit, they're just a bunch of lines all over the place, but you have to get your colors pretty much coordinated there. And the important thing for us to look at is we start out, the green should be us, isn't it?
No,
That's the norm?
that's the norm.
Okay. And then the red is where we are at. Making sure I'm not confusing myself. Is that correct, Mr. Eden?
Yes.
Okay. You are seeing growth toward where the norm's at. And as we talked earlier, we are seeing a lot of problems of the summertime. We have a whole lot of slippage. And most of the district, I think everyone at the middle school reported that same thing. We have some plans that we're going to be bringing to you that we're already working on to try to develop some summertime programs where our students will continue to be involved academically. But as you can see, the gaps close tremendously when we are in school, and when we are out of school, we have a lot of slippage. Does that go on through there a little bit? That's math. Reading, they close the gap some as well, and language arts, closing the gap as well. All those are, they're trending in the right areas. They're not where we want to be. We want to be on that green line or above that green line. The goal is to be above the green line. You got to catch the green line before you can go above it. But we are trending in the right area as we're in school, and we think once we fix the problem of being out of school and slipping, that we'll be where we want to be at. Any questions?
Mr. Jones needs to go. He's got a basketball game this evening.
Yes, one of these Tuesday conflicts is taking place right now as we speak. So if you don't have any questions for me, I will dismiss myself. Go try to do a little bit better than what we've been doing.
Thank you, Mr.
All right,
Chairman.
thank you.
Mr. Wright?
Good evening, board.
Good evening.
Our report, I'm going to make a correction like Mr. Jones said. The 27th is not the 100th day. The 27th turned out to be the 99th day. Tomorrow will be the 100th day. We're very excited to have our assembly at 8:30. It's taken a new direction. Ms. Bonnie Humphreys is leading us, and we have a lot of math activities. I know the students, a lot of our students are showing up as they will if they were 100 years old. We had some gray hairs today, but they were a little bit older. I can go ahead, the map achievement is on there. I don't have the graph, it's okay.
I think you should bring it up.
Do you want to see the graphs? They kind of go together. I was summarizing for you. The kindergarten is on target to make their goal. There's the blue line. The blue line's where they started. The green score's where they've caught up, and on that trajectory, they'll make the purple line by spring. In the top, that's math. Similarly, they did not start as far behind in reading, but they're making wonderful progress. If you would go ahead to first grade. The graphs get bigger because they show the students' progress overall. Kindergarten was only taking the 2 tests, and they're on it for 3. Go ahead to first.
Mr. Wright, I don't mean to put you on the spot, but can you talk just real briefly about the kindergarten readiness?
Well, I was trying to hold it to math.
Okay.
One of the things about kindergarten, which was not included in there, the state of Kentucky now requires a screening for all kindergartens. This is a second year. Actually, we've done it for 3 because we were part of a pilot project, but the second year this year. The kindergartners come to our school ready. We have 47% ready for kindergarten this year, which, as Mr. Huber correctly points out, that shows a lot of work on the part of those kindergarten teachers.
Because last year we were at
31.
31. So
It's a 16% gain from 31% to 47%. To put that in context, the state average this year is 50%. So we still lag 3 percentage points behind the state average, but we've made up a tremendous amount of ground. If I were you, I'd want to know who's in charge of that. Terry Tackett is our early childhood chairperson in the county. She's done a wonderful job. In July at the library, they hosted an early child day, first ever. We've had numerous activities, and we're trying to make inroads, but we try to include the whole community to help us better inform parents of early children, to get them better care, and to move that so that the children certainly get above 50% ready for kindergarten. That's
at the lower or the elementary school, they set the foundation for the whole, as we try to take kids down this pathway to excellence, we've got to do it on a firm foundation, and that starts, so the more kids we have coming to us kindergarten ready,
Yes. The
the better off we start, you know, so, and again, that improvement of 16%, I think, speaks wonders to not only the preschool program that we have in place, getting our kids ready for kindergarten here, but, you know, that's a small percentage of the kids that go through our preschool program. So really, the community as a whole is doing better at, you know, early literacy,
Absolutely.
0 through 3 education, working with their kids on just learning basic alphabet. and
Public
so-
library.
Yeah, so
Yes,
it's
Ms.
the public
Holbrook.
library, yeah, huge,
Yeah.
huge player in this, so it's really a kudos to the whole community that we've made that kind of an improvement, and especially to the preschool program, because they do some great work up there.
Not to correct the boss, certainly, but we consider it a launching pad. We're building a launching pad for these children to take off throughout their lives and their educational career. Back to first grade, you see more dots up there. That's because the first 3 dots on the left are their kindergarten scores, and then the next 3 are scores that they're getting in first grade. The lines are advancing, but I must be candid with you. Our progress in math and reading aren't what we want. Significantly, we're concerned in first grade. We made an adjustment. The board is, or Mrs. Fultz had Title I money. We have on the other report, Mrs. Perkins, Nancy Perkins is working with 24 students in first grade to be intensely to help them catch up so that those numbers advance online as they should towards spring. In the spring, we'll do the math test for the last time. First grade is progressing, but not at the right rate. Now, second grade, oh, whoops, we did that backwards. Okay. I think I might have been talking.
Look, it's Christian Miller. Experiencing a technical difficulty.
Oh.
Yeah, and you go ahead and just talk to them, Joe.
The second grade progressed similar to first grade at a little bit more advanced rate. Their target isn't as far away as first grade's target is. But you see the lines continue to go up. They're pretty steep lines of progress. Outstanding things about the teachers in both first, second grade, and kindergarten. We really not focused on any excuses or things. We just take the information and they plan accordingly. They have a lot of activities going in their math areas and in reading to get us on track to get to that purple line, which is proficient in math. We're going to pass the norm and go up to proficient. Can I answer any questions?
John?
We as well have our 100th Day celebration tomorrow. We're supposed to be today, so we are excited to get to our 100th days. We have lots of activities planned for them in the morning around 10:15. We also are working on Leader of the Month luncheon that will be on Thursday. So each teacher chooses a leader from their classroom and they invite the parents of that student in for a luncheon. We do that once a month. Currently, we are trying to, as Below Elementary is already a leader in these school, we're trying to become a leader in these school as well. So we're doing a lot of activities with Leader in Me. We are currently doing a book study, and we have some of our staff members going tomorrow to a school, and we'll do a school visit for a school that is about our same size, that is a Leader in Me school. So we're going to see what they do. They're going to come back and report to us. And then we also have our faculty meetings for program review that we're going to be doing tomorrow with the middle school special teachers and lower elementary special teachers. We'll get together to to help score our program reviews. I think that's pretty much everything else. Oh, SRC and some dog competition. Also, we have students that are getting online to try to answer 500 or more correct math questions. And if they do that, they get to participate in the celebration for some dog. Our SRC is our students are reading books and taking quizzes and are trying to get as many SRC points. They all have an individual goal. Our goal for the end of February is 36,000 points, and I've agreed to be duct taped to a wall if they get 36,000 points. They're at 25,000 and something right now, so it convinced me that I will be stuck to a wall. We'll see. And I believe that's it for there. We'll look at our math scores now. What we're looking here is the third grade scores. If you'll notice, if you go over all the way to the left where it starts in the fall, this is the same group of students since they have been in first grade. So it shows the very left-hand side how they scored in first grade, and we have an upward trend. So they're learning what they're supposed to be learning. We are closing that gap to proficiency, which is the purple line. We're almost on the green line, but we're shooting for the purple line. So in math, we're almost there with our third graders. So if you scroll down to the reading, we're actually on the green line, which is the norm. That's the 50th percentile. So what that's saying is that for our third graders, their scoring is everyone in the state at the 50th percentile, but we're trying to push for that purple line, which is the proficiency line. So we're almost there in reading. And then in language, that's down. Yes. Language, we're at the 50th percentile as well. So you'll notice since these students started in first grade, that they have kept up with the norm. Now, fourth grade, with math, we are closing in on our norm line, which is the green line. Like Mr. Jones said before, if you notice in the fall, we tend to dip a little bit. So we get them really close in the spring, and then over the summer, sometimes we think it's just losing some of that knowledge that they learned all year and just having to reteach some of that here when they take it in the fall. But then we close in by the spring again. And math, what we think the problem that is occurring is in multiplication, because we looked at some of our content in our curriculum, and we don't think we're teaching multiplication soon enough. So that's what we're going to focus in on next year, especially in third grade, hitting that multiplication standard a little bit more when they come in as third graders. And then reading, again, we are on our norm line, and we're trying to push for proficiency. We're right there with reading. And then language. With our language, we are really close to our normative data line. Fifth grade with math, let me remind you, this is the same group of students since they started 2 years ago. So this is since they were in third grade. So third through fourth grade, they have consistently improved, trying to close that gap a little bit more. I'm still working on trying to get to the norm condition for proficiency. Reading, we have almost caught it. We're almost on there. In our fifth grade, it's a little bit different because we have one teacher teaching one subject, so they are concentrating on just teaching their core content subject. We have one reading teacher, one math teacher. So those teachers have that one teacher has a total of 125 students that they see a day. And language, we're closing in on the norm as well.
Okay. Steve?
We'll go through a few things. First of all, some of our students were here earlier for the Governor's Cup. We did really well in the Governor's Cup, and I do have finished where, and I'd just like to read that off to honor them. Sienna Tainch was first in math and fourth in arts and humanities. By the way, everybody that I mentioned here will be going on to the regional government stuff, and that is this Saturday. In math, Bill Merrick placed fourth. Caleb Meyer placed fifth in science. Taylor Tainch was first in composition and third in language arts. Gina Rippertella was second in composition and second in language arts. Robert Thomas was first in social studies. Lydia Aquaria was fourth in social studies. Milo Rippertella was fifth in arts and humanities. So all these children, actually the people that won the composition are actually competing tonight, and the rest will be competing on Saturday. We've also held our science fair last week, and I'd like to acknowledge those winners. First place was Tim Guevara in the 8th grade, this 8th grade, I'm sorry, I should have told you that first. Second place was a tie with Oscar Vargas and Kelsey Kidder. And third place was Jacqueline Jones, or Jalen Jones, I'm sorry. Pretty bad when you can't read your own handwriting. First place, 7th grade, was Kennedy Bledsoe. Second was Dylan Young. Third was Geneva Combs with a tie with Joseph McCoy. In the 6th grade, first place was Jackson Mounts. Tie second place for Katie Nash, Elliot Brown, and Hayden Dickerson. Honorable mention was Luke Marksberry, Alex Frazier, Hunter Jones, and Hayden Cozing, Faith Watkins, and Ashley Webster, Abby Perry, and Mr. Wilson. One honorable mention. That's on the list there. We also, was a big thing, and I was told that I didn't put that up correctly, but I should have put English language learner meeting, but most of our English language learner kids are Hispanics. We have a meeting with those parents. We have 30 families that fall into that category, and 10 of them showed up. We had a really good meeting. And if you go down a little bit further here, we put this together through our students. Go down to Surprise and Delights there. And Oscar and Jesus did a great job. They did everything for me. I'll be honest with you, I speak no Spanish, okay? So those guys took care of it for me. They came in, they wrote they translated the letters that we sent home. They did the recording on the all call and sent that home. That night here, they translated it for us. And I went to one of my Georgia y'alls, and I think Oscar got it right in there. I'm pretty sure he did because everybody was laughing at him. So, great night, really, I learned a lot. And we're going to see, we're going to have another meeting on the 18th of February. Also on the 18th of February is when we will have people from the Leader in Me who we're trying to get grants from, and I can't remember which organization that is, but there will be a luncheon, and Mr. Curran had the kids calling out invitations, sending invitations to business community members and business or local leaders and that, and I hope everybody will be able to attend. It's been invited. Is there any questions on our report? I can go ahead and move to our MAP scores. And I'm going to repeat what you've heard tonight. Basically, we make that big drop in the fall, and you can see that, I think, more. I'm colorblind, so when I look at graphs, I can't tell which is, all these colors, but I can look at numbers down there at the chart. And what we're trying to do is close that gap. Okay, every time we do this, we're trying to get the kids more to that gap there. Math, we closed the gap a little bit. If you move down for reading, closing it some more. And that's what we're trying to do. We put in place, we've got interventions going on to address just about every child that's not at proficiency. If they're not proficiency, they're in some type of proficiency or intervention. If you look on the agenda tonight, we have hired a Title I aide to help with the reading and math, get more individualized with those kids so we can help more kids.
And I just want to mention, Mr. Weir talked about the RTI. These are my scores for my 6th grade students. The RTI is for our lower 0 to 25 percentile. Typical growth is 4 points in a year, and my RTI kids have made 3.7 points growth in half a year. So they made almost a whole year's gain in just half of a year. So RTI is making a huge difference in our middle school.
Is that pretty much the same trend you see in every grade?
Yes, sir. We had one particular, I think it was seventh grade math that didn't quite make it the way everybody else did. We had some things that are going on with teacher being ill and the children and all that thing. However, we're back on track. Ms. Jones and I were in the classrooms quite a bit in the seventh grade. Just so you know, I'm a former math teacher, so I was semi-qualified to know that. But trying to maintain that. And they did close the gap, but not as much as we would like.
We have our attendance report next for our month 5. You're going to see a big decline from month 4, also in comparisons of the other months. We had a very huge spread of illness over month 5, which was from the middle of, around the 1st of December through January, in the 1st of January. We're still seeing a bit of that sickness. I think the stomach bug is really rampant right now. So we're hoping to get these numbers back up to where they need to be by at least month 6 or month 7. Our enrollment, which you see on the last column there as far as membership compared to last year, the lower elementary is about 10 students less than what they were this time last year. The high school's 5 or 6 students more. Upper elementary's a few less, like the lower elementary, and the middle school has stayed about the same. So again, we're struggling. We did, right before Christmas, the week before Christmas was our worst days for attendance with a lot of kids sick. But we did choose to just try to keep moving on because we knew Christmas break was coming. We also know we have to sometimes plan for these snow weather days that we've been having as well. So trying not to miss school, if at all possible. So I hope we're at the worst of the sickness and get the kids well and get them back in school. Any questions?
Thank you.
Okay, tonight is when our annual nutrition report is due. This year, we had to meet the second target of the Healthy Hungry Food Kids Act, where we have to lower our sodium, and we have met all of that. We have one more target that we're going to have to meet, but I think it's a couple of years down the road. Hopefully, we'll have someone that sees that it's not working and that everything tastes like cardboard and we can get rid of it. But this has our activity and how much we take in from the federal government for breakfast and lunch and how many meals we serve. It's just a general report card that we have to send to the states each year. You all had a copy of it. If you have any questions, I know we got a lot on the agenda tonight. So,
is there any particular thing that jumped out at you, Ms. Sebring?
The amount of meals that we served this year compared to last year is about 10,000 less.
Is that for a total, does this thing run an academic year, or does it run January to December?
Academic,
okay.
Academic.
So from one year to the next, we're already at 10,000 meals less.
Less, from last year.
Why is that? Do you know?
Because the kids don't like what we're having to serve. We have everything, this year went to whole grain. Last year it was everything, it was 50% we had to have whole grain. This year it was 100%. Manufacturers just, they didn't have time to really make new products to meet the guidelines, so we're just struggling. They didn't give them time to make whole grain that tastes like.
But do you think that's going to improve? Because I know you go to these tastings and now the manufacturers know they got to put out something whole grain.
They are getting better. I've been to 2 last week. I've got 2 more this coming month that I have to attend for us to approve what we're actually going to put on our menus. Now, OVAC, since we're part of them, we actually do taste testing, and we do it with kids too. Other districts don't even get this chance. They just put whatever they want on bid. They don't have a choice. OVAC is very particular. We have the best of the worst. I mean, that's the only way you can put it. Is that it? Okay. Oh, and I do need these signed, but I'll get them after the meeting.
The next item on the agenda, Mr. Wilson, is approval of lower elementary consolidated school improvement plan. This was an oversight from last month when you all approved all the other schools' school improvement plans. We just left it off the list. We had it, it was an oversight on our part, so it just has to be approved so we can send it on into KDE.
I'll make that motion to approve that.
I'll second that.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Mr. Hughes, I have a thought that mine needs approval.
Does it need a vote?
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm sorry, it does.
So we'll need a vote to approve this nutrition report for this year
Oh,
with us.
okay.
I would move to approve the nutrition and physical activity report.
I'll second.
Okay. And we've had discussion on all in favor? All right, now we jump back. We're at, citizens and delegations.
He wanted that to be after this, so we gotta start up here.
Yeah, it is different.
Okay, that's what we're looking at. Yeah, I'm sorry. Mr. Gamble?
My next. Pleasure to be here tonight. Glad I got to stand up and cramp in my foot there. But just to let you know, draft budget is a preliminary projection. You know, it's really our first look at what's going to happen for the fiscal year 15-16. We do have some advantages. We're in the second year of the biennial budget. You know, therefore we know what the mandated salary increases are. We know what the seat base is going to be. So we do have some advantages, but there are going to be some more variables, and you know we'll just have to flesh those out and look at those between now and a tentative budget in May. But just to let you know what's in this budget, in the general fund, with regards to revenues, overall local tax revenues were increased for next year's budget by about 4.1%. This due to a slight increase in our property tax assessments, real property, and also motor vehicle, and also a projected increase, growth increase of about 2.3% if you look back historically and what's been happening over the past couple of years. We also in utility taxes, we budgeted a little bit larger increase in utility taxes because what we've got in there this year is probably less, significantly less than what we will collect. We are collecting this year based on historical patterns, so probably about $75,000 more in utility taxes than what we had budgeted for this year. With the seat base increasing 2%, maybe about a 1.2% increase in average daily attendance, we're looking at probably a seat increase of about 195,000. We also, just to let you know, after coming in and looking at the revised seat, what we had budgeted prior to tonight for this year, we've increased by about $150,000, and that's mainly due to student attendance being about 19 more, plus the assessment data and so forth coming in. So actually we increased this year's seat by about $150,000, and then we're looking at an additional increase of about $195,000 for next year.
Now that $195,000 is projected to help with the 2% salary increase, correct? I mean, is that
Right.
what it's built
Right.
in there for?
And what typically happens with that is you might get a 2% increase in the seat base, but the way the formula works, generally locally, you have to put some tax effort to meet a 2% salary increase for staff. So it'll pay for part of it, but not all of it. We also have some other things that we have in there. We started getting Medicaid reimbursements. And I need to talk to Ms. Cameron about that, about whether we're going to continue Medicaid billing and open that program back up. It could be a significant source of revenue. And due to our debt service being less than our capital account revenues, we'll be able to transfer about $183,000 of capital money into our general fund for current operating expense for next year. So overall, our budget receipts are about $600,000 more than the current year. It's about a 4.5% increase. By the way, if you have any questions, just interrupt me as we go through here. As I said before, salary increases, 2% are incorporated in this budget, plus a step. That's for certified and classified. It's also for extracurricular positions. So that's what we're looking at this point. The only thing that's actually required is 2% for certified, but this budget incorporates 2% for all personnel and positions. If we had current staff, that cost would be about $283,000 to provide a 2% and a step for everyone, experienced step. But we've got some attrition, we've got some retirements, probably, and we're not, I'm talking to Mr. Huber, not planning on replacing those people as they leave. So actually we're only looking at a salary difference of $32,000 next year versus what we've got in the budget for this year. One negative is that...
Can I jump in there? That $32,000 difference is already figuring in positions we know are going to retire that we think we don't need to replace.
Right. People that it would cost $283,000, but we've got people that are not coming back that we're not planning on replacing, so we're looking at about a $30,000 increase in salary costs. However, benefit costs are a different matter. KTRS match for general fund personnel is increasing by about 33%. It's going to cost an additional $75,000 to meet the KTRS match next year, but that is the last year. So we're not looking at an increase in KTRS. Supposedly 15-16 is the last year. And for those of you who don't know, that increase was put in about 5 or 6 years ago. It's intended to pay for health insurance for KTRS retirees. So in total, salary and benefit costs together about $8.8 million, which is really only less than 73% of the budget. And quite honestly, that's a low number because a lot of districts could be 80 to 85%. So hopefully, as we get into this and investigate further, there'll be different places we can look at without necessarily getting into personnel issues if we're looking for budget reductions and savings. We increased all non-personnel expenditures with the exception of building, operation, and maintenance by 1%. So in other words, everybody's getting a 1% increase in the transportation budgets, for example, special education budgets, talking about not for people but for supplies and materials. With the exception of building maintenance, we reduced those expenditures, those non-personnel costs and maintenance by 2%. We also have a $75,000 budgeted for a program developed by OVEC called iLeap. iLeap, I apologize.
That's the career academy that we've been talking about.
Right. And also do plan on buying an additional bus next year. And more than likely we'll finance that with KISTA. And that's where you finance a bus over 10 years. Unfortunately, in doing this, we're still looking at next year's expenditures being about $500,000 more than revenue. So we've got a little bit of ways to go to try to achieve some equilibrium in this budget and make things work out. But in looking at it, I'm not. A lot of this budget, like I said, is predicated on what's in there this year. I look back at budgets 4 or 5 years ago, and going back each year, we usually spend about $600,000 to $700,000 less than what we had budgeted. So as we study that and watch that over the next couple of months, we'll find out if that's going to be the case again this year. But hopefully that will be the case.
Are you saying we done the same for last year?
Sir?
Last year we spent $600,000.
As far as total budget-wise in general fund, I think it was about $600,000 or $700,000 less than what we had budgeted. Special revenue fund, is strictly grants, state grants and federal grants. We don't know what they're going to be at this point. They will be included in a tentative budget, and hopefully we'll have the grant awards and so forth by that time, and they'll be in the tentative budget in May. Capital outlay fund, revenues is $151,300. The state sends us $100 for every child in average daily attendance. So that means I'm looking at having average daily attendance of 1,513, Ms. Booth, next year. So, at least, if not more, okay? And revenue of building fund, we have 3 nickels that go in the building fund. So 15 cents of our tax rate, I'm sorry, I can't remember the tax rate, it's about maybe
66.4, maybe?
is it 60 something?
66 point something.
Okay, well, nearly 25% of our tax effort from property tax goes into the building fund. And which the local portion is about $900,000. Fortunately, the state matches those 3 nickels up to the tune of almost $800,000. So for almost just short of $1.7 million that goes in there, the total district's debt service next year is $1,662,000. So there'll be $32,000 left in the building fund. Plus, we'll take the $151,000 from the capital outlay fund, and we're planning on transferring that to general fund to use for current operating expense for next year. But that's already included in this budget. One thing I found, the construction fund at the Wildcat Academy, I know that there's issues about paying and so forth. But once, I assume at one point we will make that payment once the issues are ironed out. Looks like there's going to be about $200,000 left over in that construction account, which is a good thing. So, you know, it's a lot better than spending more than what you bonded for. So, the board will have to decide down the road what to do with that $200,000. A couple of options are going to be put it all towards the next priority in construction.
Which is supposed to be
As long as it's first priority on the facility plan, that can be done. Or you can use it to pay debt service. However, if you use it to pay debt service, School Facilities Construction Commission participated in this bond issue to the tune of about 10%. So if we use it to pay debt service, they're going to want about $20,000 back. So those are the options. A third option is if there are things at the Wildcat Academy that need to be purchased that we don't have yet. You know, so those 3 things we can do with that $200,000. Debt service fund is just a transfer fund where we move money in and move it out for debt service. So it's just a zero balance fund. It's an in and out thing. It's a kind of a wash fund. Food service, and basically what Ms. Sebring's saying about meals is reflected in our financials this year. So while we're going to provide 2% salary increases plus a step, we got food costs going up, and so we're looking at 3.5% to 4% increase in cost in food service. We're not looking at those kind of increases in revenue. So we're looking at probably a decreased fund balance next year possibly. Based on what I saw, it looked like we had anticipated $131,000 this year at the end of the year, but possibly at 15-16, the ending balance being about $75,000. So no need, need for huge concern. It's just something that we need to keep an eye on, because if the trend continues, then with not as many meals being served, not as much federal reimbursement, not as much a la carte, so forth, it could be an issue down the road. Just in summary, I think, a decrease in contingency is obviously something to be thinking about and we need to pay attention to. And it needs to be addressed. Like I just want to stress again, this is probably a worst case scenario. That as we get into the current budget and flesh things out, I think we'll find that probably we're going to have more money left over at the end of this year than what's reflected. but that's just gonna take time to find out. And I think over the next 3 months, that'll be easy enough to ascertain. If we have a budget committee or something like that, I think if part of the community, board members, staff, or somebody like that wants to serve on something like that, because if that's not the case, it's quite likely we will have to make some reductions, because you don't want to be sitting at a 3% contingency. You want to be at 5%. You want to be at 10% ideally. So it's kind of the last 3 years, we've kind of had a trend going down. But if you look at the fund balances here in this district, it's like a whipsaw. It's just like, you know, 1 year is way up here, next year bam, and then the next year back up. So just going to have to see where everything is in this budget, and we'll get a better idea in the next month or two where we need to be and present a budget to you in May. Now this budget needs to be reviewed, but it's not something that needs to be approved, nor is it sent to KDE. You guys have any questions?
Just my main concern with this budget, Mr. Gamble, and you and I had this conversation, is the 3% contingency. Now, that puts us 1% above the state required amount. I'm not comfortable recommending to the board that we do that. So I would recommend the board, we put together a budget committee based on community members, staff, and a board member to sit in on that, and we start looking at this budget and say, where can we come up with this $500,000 worth of savings to keep us from getting to a contingency that.
You know, we just need to equalize expenditures and revenues, and at this point, you know, we're looking at about $500,000.
And we've got 3 months to come up with that, right? Basically,
Yeah, but
we'll come up with the draft budget.
that's doable.
I just want to make sure before we get to approving this next budget, we go line item. We need to go line item on everything. We need to look at our costs. We need to look at salaries of certain individuals, and we need to make sure we do everything we can.
Next month, I'll be bringing the draft salary schedule to you all so that we can sit down and say, you know, here's what we're looking like as far as the draft salary schedule, and that way we can start talking about that, because they go hand in hand. You know, the salary schedule eats up the biggest portion of our, you know, we say 73% of our district monies go towards salary, so that is something we've got to make sure we keep an eye on.
I just don't want to get up to another budget meeting and we Skype in someone just to get a vote to approve a budget, to pass it through, to get it on down the road, because we should have been looking at this last year, and if we would have cut $10,000 out of the budget last year, it could have helped us and so forth, so. And that's obviously not your problem, you wasn't here, so.
Mr. Gamble's not only taking a good fresh look at the budget bottom line numbers, he's looking at some accounting procedures, like district maintenance expenses. A lot of the building maintenance expenses, we've just been coding to the district level. Well, that doesn't give us any tracking as far as what's it cost to operate each building. So he's changing some of the procedures there. He streamlined some of the workflow in the office. We're moving toward more automated manipulation, I guess, or use of the. You're blocking his mic.
Sorry. Yeah, sometimes the historical data is hard to tell if, you know, we don't have the expenditure assigned to, say, the right building, the right facility, or right program. So if it's just district-wide, I may not necessarily know where that cost was at last year without going back to each individual invoice and trying to make that determination. So it may take a year before we have true historical data.
Thank you, Mr. Raymond. Okay. The next item, food, unless we go back to something.
Well, can I
You
ask you a
have to
legal
approve
question?
that. You have to
Your
approve that.
superintendent recommended a budget committee and they need somebody off of the board. Are y'all gonna deal with that, or?
Is it the board action to establish the
Well,
committee?
again, tonight's your organizational meeting, and that would be one of the things that you would do if you're going to do it.
You
And
have
you
to
want to do
approve
it.
that.
It's a board call.
I'm fine with that. If the board will take recommendations from a committee that is made up of members in this community that, you know, obviously sees the need that we have financially.
And this doesn't, I mean, I think the committee's work would be a good thing to bring to a working session of the full board, to sit down and do the line item by line item and have, more in-depth detailed discussion. But that would save you all a ton of time if the committee does some of that work up front for you and then brings it to you. But I think if we form the committee, the motion needs to say comprised of, maybe equal representations of community and school staff, as well as, I think one of the members of the board ought to sit in on it, just to be the subject matter expert when the board comes together to have a working session on the budget.
And from a legal standpoint, I would suggest that because the board committee member would assumedly be the lead person to discuss it with the full board, and you wouldn't bring it as a board member unless you were satisfied that it was the best budget you could bring to the board. So I think the recommendation is a good recommendation from finance and the superintendent.
So we need to have, make a motion to put somebody on this committee.
You need to make a motion to form the committee, and then I would put in the motion equal representation of, if there's 3 community members and there's 3 members from each school and then 1 board member. Some type of good community representation, I think.
Should we do that with just 3 members here? I think that's something that should be put off to have some more members present, a new board member and Mr. Tanger. So we get their opinion also. I don't think we ought to do that tonight.
What is the date on the next board meeting?
I've got it right here.
February
2/11.
February the 11th?
2/11, yeah.
That's right.
I would agree with Mr. Wilson, waiting at least until Alex Tange has a say-so in the committee. If you do not think 2/11 is going to be, is February 11th going to be too late to form this? When does this
No.
committee need to be formed? Is
Yeah.
there,
Well, I don't think there's
I
any
don't think,
deadline.
I don't think there's any harm in doing it tonight. I don't think there's any harm in putting it off until, 2 weeks from now, so either way is, I don't see any,
This is something that we,
I don't see it being a point of controversy. I mean, getting people's input on the budget.
so do I have a motion on the floor to do this tonight?
I'll make that motion to form the committee tonight.
Do I have a second?
I have a question before I say anything. If we form the committee tonight, are we going to also decide which board member, or we're just going to form the committee
We
tonight?
can just form the committee tonight.
Just form the committee.
I would second
That way we
the
can
motion.
have the, try to start recruiting some community members and getting some, idea from the schools who they wanna put on the committee.
Okay. I would second the motion to form the committee and not appoint a board member at this point.
Any more discussion on this? Voting? Two yes and 1 no, so it does not pass. Next item. Discussion of the state auditor's report.
We need a motion to approve the draft budget.
No.
Just need to be discussed.
Is there any discussion?
Absolutely, I'll take this. I thought maybe somebody else had a few thoughts on this process. I guess the first order of business here is, there was quite a few things in our audit report that is very concerning to me as a board member. There's a lot of good things going on in our school system at the same time. Don't want to take away from what's going on good in our school system, but I think it's also important to not just dredge ahead and not fix the mistakes of the past. And the reason I say that is there was an email that was sent out to our teachers throughout our district, and it got quoted in the newspaper saying no allegations of wrongdoing. I guess what I want us to look at tonight is a couple different things. And to begin with, I would like to ask our board members, and I wish all of our board was here, but you all read the report. Do you believe that the auditor's report was not wrong?
I believe there was no wrongdoing, no allegations of wrongdoing, Mr. Murray.
Okay, no allegations of wrongdoing or no wrongdoing?
I believe there was no wrongdoing because I believe if there was wrongdoing, that they would have found wrongdoing in this report,
Okay.
and they did not.
Okay.
They just found best management practices in this report.
Okay.
If we're not gonna pay any attention to this state audit, why are we gonna pay $23,000 for it? That we're taking away from the school system, that we should have been spent on children,
Absolutely.
on our teachers and our students.
Absolutely.
Not to some man in Frankfurt comes in here and when he fills his report out, he says there's no wrongdoing, there was nothing that we have not been doing right. Some of the changes he said to make, we have already, Mr. Huber has already got into performing those as far as the financial accountant and so forth. If we're not gonna pay, we spent over $23,000.
$23,050.
Well, 23,000, we'll round it down a little bit. We spent $23,000 for an audit that we're not gonna pay attention to. That is ridiculous. That is ridiculous.
You're absolutely
completely.
right.
Well, then why are you bringing it up?
Because we're gonna pay attention to it.
Why are you bringing up
I know
things?
I'm the student board member.
Well, wait just a minute. I wanna know, Mr. Murray, why you're bringing up something that the state report auditor has already listed.
Okay, if you'll give me time to respond to you,
Well,
let me respond.
not too much time, because we're not gonna waste much time on it.
We're gonna take all the time we need to do
No,
what's
we're
best for our
not.
students.
No, we're not.
Can I say something?
Let me move forward here. Based on our current situation, Mr. Gamble has came from Kenton County. It has been alluded to the fact, unless Mr. Huber had misquoted some numbers, but I believe what our superintendent's doing. Mr. Gamble said he could do the same job that two people in our district was doing at a cost of around $40,000, okay? Let's take that $40,000. When we were paying a financial consultant $54,000 a year last year, and prior to that, or in most years was relative close to that, but we can average that out over the last 10 years. Let's take our finance director that was making $80,000. If you put those two numbers together based on the current situation we are at now, you're talking $94,000. Average that over 10 years. On an average, you're looking at almost $1 million. That's $1 million we have taken from our children, okay? So to sit here in this room and say that audit doesn't mean anything is ridiculous, because this school system spent almost $1 million that should have went to our children. Now let me talk about what our children missed out on. Just in the lower elementary, we lost 3 kindergarten assistants. We lost 2 teachers in the lower elementary. Field trips were cut drastically, and the cost of buses forwarded to students where they could not go. Kids had to pay school fees or did not get agendas. Kids were given alternative meals if parents could not afford their lunch. Cafeteria workers, teachers, etc. took money out of their own pockets to pay at times when kids could not. Teachers and classrooms funds was cut from $450 to $150, forcing teachers to ask more from our parents. No reimbursement for professional development. In the middle school, we lost 2 positions at the middle school. We lost instructional aides were cut. Warnings about conserving paper and ink was told to our teachers. Watch out what you use, we can't afford it. Teachers bought supplies with their own money. No raises were given for years, except to a very few in this board office. DILT was cut from $1,000 to $750. 2 contract days were cut out, so another pay cut for our employees. Many of our teachers, cafeteria workers, custodians, bus drivers, bus monitors, maintenance workers, and faculty all throughout this district done without to do what was best for our children. Textbooks was very scarce throughout our district. So with all that being said, we don't think that almost $1 million, we're talking one position. And that's not concerning to this board. If that mentality alone, we have issues with. If this board will sit here, we haven't accomplished nothing with this audit. You're absolutely right, because nobody on this board learned. Everything that was in that audit was brought to this board. If you want to talk about $23,000 costing our students, no. You, as board members, cost our students, because I brought those issues into this room repeatedly and asked. let's fix this. Let's get rid of the financial consultant. Let's get rid of this contract. Did I not ask those questions repeatedly? You all did not want to do it, and now we want to say.
With all these questions and all this past digging up old bones that we can do nothing about. If you're gonna bring this up, Chad, have a solution for it.
My solution is for
Yes.
you all to have some common sense when we come into
I've
this room and
got
make a
common
vote.
sense, I've got plenty of common
Well,
sense.
well, why
I've
didn't
got
you?
common sense
Why
enough
are
to
you
know
telling me
that
I
if
cost
we
our
paid
children
$23,000 for a state man to come in here and do a state audit, that we should pay attention to it.
$23,000 was told to me that I cost our children. I
You
take
did.
that to heart. No, I
Yeah,
didn't cost our
you
children.
did.
Well,
You were the one
did we
that
say
asked for the audit. You said it in
let's
an
deal with
open
this
meeting.
different. Mr. Huber, did we save
No,
$94,000
no, we
this
can't deal with it
year
any differently.
by those positions?
You asked for that audit, it cost us $23,000.
Mr.
Black
Huber,
and
did we
white.
save $94,000 with those positions?
I would like to start with something else, and I'll get to that. First of all, I'm the one who sent out the email that said no wrongdoing, no allegations of wrongdoing on anyone's part. And what I meant by that was, this audit report, unlike many of the school audit reports that have recently come out, does not point to a person and say, this person has done wrong and should go to jail. And that is, and I'm not saying that you can't do wrong and not go to jail, because we know that happens all the time. I don't feel like I'm in a position, because this person, this position, the financial consultant, was created 2 superintendents ago, over 10 years ago. I don't know what things were in play at the time that decision was made. I'm not going to armchair quarterback someone else's decisions. All I know is that from early on, I recognized that we were probably overstaffed in the finance office. Even before I was offered the position, I spoke at it in my interview. We have fixed that problem. We have not replaced that position, and we're not going to replace that position. We have hired Mr. Gamble in. I don't know exactly how much money we're going to save on that yet, Mr. Murray, because
Is it close to that?
It could be, but here's why I don't know. Mr. Gamble and I both agreed that we're going to try this for 2 months. He doesn't know if he can do this part-time. He believes he can. I would like to believe he can. But we're going to try that for 2 months. If the work is getting done, then we got a good arrangement right now. I'm very happy with what we've got. So if we do that, then on a yearly basis, I'm going to say maybe his salary, because we're paying him per hour. He's billing us on an hourly basis based off his daily wage threshold salary. So let's say if he works 4 hours a day and can do the work in that hour. So far, he's put in a few extra hours on the weekend and so forth, because he's getting spun up. So as he gets in this, let's say we pay him $50,000 a year. Budgeted for the financial consultant, we were budgeting 45. Some years we spent more than that. Some years we spent less. For the previous finance director, her salary was around 80. So yeah, I mean, we're probably going to save. Let's say we save $70,000 a year, just to be on the safe side. But yeah, that money can be put to a better use. I'll agree. That list you read off could be read off in any school district in this state. Every school district in this state is experiencing the same financial constraints that Gallatin County is facing.
I'll give you that,
understand,
but not they. At the same time, we 100% did things wrong. So I'll give you any school district has problems and had the cutbacks.
Right.
But you don't make cutbacks on the backs of these people that have worked for us, on top of financial consultants that was paid $140 a day to come back and forth to work. We got people in this district that don't even make $140 a week.
I understand. And again, I don't know why that was put in place at the time it was. And the finance or the public auditor's office has been very clear about how to handle those situations in the future, about how we be more specific when we contract for someone in the future. And I think we're going to fix all that. I mean, in fact, we have of the six recommendations made by the state auditor's office, 3 of them are completely fixed at this point, and the other 2 are almost to that point. I mean, we got to update a policy, and we got to fix our salary schedule, and we'll be fixed.
This is not a Huber problem. This is not a central office problem at this point. This is a board problem, and that's what I'm speaking of tonight.
But
this has nothing to do with the people that works in this district.
He started in August. Mr. Huber started in August. When he started, we had I believe it was brought to the board that there was 6 or 8 people that thought their salary schedule was wrong. I believe one of those we had to pay on. Mr. Huber is, not that we did anything wrong, I'm not going to do, Mr. Murray, excuse me, and put him in the courthouse square and hang him and flog him and beat him. I'm not doing that. There was no wrongdoing. And
It took from
hang
our
on a
kids.
minute.
I will
please,
say,
Travis.
Of course you
again,
have to
I'm
take
gonna
that
say,
because you
the
voted for
money,
half of those
I believe.
You know what? I've been on here, this is my 13th year, and I'll sit here and I'll say yes. And I'll say there's no wrongdoing, there's no wrongdoing done in this district. Travis started in August. He's fixing things, he's changing things. We have new leadership. Why don't we let him go forward?
Because I believe in fixing things. If our mentality as
If
a
you
board,
fix things, you have to go forward in order to fix them.
but the mentality of a
You
board,
cannot
if
fix
You don't know what our
something is
mentality
wrong,
is.
we're not fixing because we're going to come right back into this room. We will vote whatever. It doesn't matter.
When does
the
that
mentality
happen?
hasn't
When
been-
does that happen? You better watch how you
we-
vote then,
we-
because I haven't done that.
We have
You better
identified.
watch how you vote.
We
I
have
do every time I
identified
vote.
that the money was not put to the best use it could have been put towards kids. Okay, I think that's clear from the auditor's report. He basically says that verbatim in there. I don't believe that anybody took $1 million over the last 10 years. I believe 2 people showed up, worked for the salary that they were promised, and I'll tell you, they worked. There was never a time I walked in that office they were not meaningfully engaged in the work of the district. Now, were there duplication of duties? Yes, there were duplication of duties. But this board approved all those expenses,
That shouldn't have been approved.
except for
But we weren't on the
the
board at that
$28,000
time.
listed in the
We
auditor's
cannot
report.
correct what another board done.
Well,
So this is all
this-
bringing up
This is
old
what.
bones that we can do nothing about. It has been done. It was not right, maybe, but it has been done.
And that $23,000 was worth it to save the
Can we
$70,000.
wait for public comment?
No.
This is a discussion between the board and the board.
No, we can,
Well, as
we
taxpayers, I feel that
have,
we
we
should.
have, just, we have,
We'll talk later.
we have an
When it's our
agenda
turn.
on here for the citizens
Yes, we'll
to,
talk when it's our
to
turn.
speak their piece.
Yes,
and
yes.
We'll listen to you
Can
for
I,
a certain limited
can
time.
I say something? I know I'm a student board member and I don't have a vote. However, yesterday I went to a seminar in Louisville. It was about like co-presidents and how plural presidents would be better for one. Has nothing to do with this. However, you have to work together to move forward, and you have to step back, see what you did wrong to move forward. And that's what I really don't see that's going on. I'm taught in school that you have to work with your team. I'm taught in school that you have to work with your team to be able to progress day by day. And it really bothers me when there's one man fighting for what's right. And I'm not saying that the other board members aren't. However, when he brings up a point, it's just, let's not talk about it. Let's not discuss. There's no discussion that goes on in these board meetings. The seminar I went to, the guy said he has to sit there and stop his class and tell them, you guys need to start asking me questions because I'm not going to teach anymore because I don't know if you guys understand it. Which really scares me because as our board member, are you guys not understanding the problems at our hand and don't want to really understand them so you're voting yes to them? The budget that was approved.
I don't know anybody that's ever done that.
Oh, the budget,
Now,
for example,
you
there
brought
was
up something that
no.
was very important. You
Let him
said,
finish.
hold it now.
It's his turn.
Hold up here just a minute. You have your turn.
And so does our student board member. Let him finish.
Okay, I'm going to override you this time because I've seen you override many people and I've seen other people override me, so I'm taking my stand and I'm saying it now. The budget that was approved, there was not a bit of discussion that I really saw that really understood the budget, and we piped in a board member that I saw, our students saw. Our students are concerned because our board member's not involved like they should be. We piped in the board member to say yes to a budget, and at the next board meeting, Mr. Murray asked, do you guys understand it, to the board that said yes, and I didn't hear any words. There was no discussion about that word. Nobody said they really understood it, and I understand it's preliminary, And it's just a guess, but still, there's not really discussion. Nobody wants to work together to make our school go forward. And it really concerns me because I am a senior, and our school is in a struggling position. Our students that are freshmen, they're not going to be able to have a great high school when they're seniors because nobody wants to work together. Everybody wants to bicker and say snark, rude comments or little petty things. The emails that are sent, little petty things. It just really concerned me that you guys can't act like adults and work together and, go out to lunch and say, well, let's do this, it really concerns me that there's no real discussion that goes on here except Mr. Murray, who brings up some points like the financial position or whatever. He said many times, let's look at the people in the central office at their salaries. And there was no discussion on that. There was no discussion on many things that auditor said that should have been looked at, which really concerns me. And you said at the beginning of the meeting that we weren't going to pay attention to that state audit. That was $23,000 worth of paying attention that should have been done a long time ago. And our board is seen as unprofessional at times, and it really makes me sick because I love all the board members on here. I have no personal vendetta against them, but our students, they'll hear the teachers talking, or they'll talk to each other, and we need to look at the problems in the past, go forward, and have a new thing. So that's all I have.
All right,
to say.
thank you, Mr. Miller. You mentioned about 3 times on here that we need to work together. I haven't seen Mr. Murray work with us very much at all during his tenure here on the school board. And this is something that we need to get done. We do need to work together. We need to agree on things. We need to move forward. We've continually, through his paperwork and so forth and his comments, we've continually looked backward. And we need to look forward. We need to try to help the districts and correct things that have been done wrong. He has some good points, but there's nothing that we can do about those things that happened with another superintendent, another school board. None of those people are, except maybe Ms. Giles, is the only one that was on here during any of that time. Not the whole time, but any of that time. And we need to move forward.
I think one of the things that the board, we can do is either at a working session or at the next general session is, we don't have any goals for our budget. And because we don't have any goals for our budget, we don't know what we're working for. So, we can set goals to give to this committee and say, here's what we charge you with. We charge you with an 8% contingency. We charge you with 65% of our total budget going towards instruction. We charge you to keep salary expenses under 75%, 80%, whatever the board feels is fair. Once we set those goals and this committee's got something to work toward, and then we're not worrying about what do we have, we start focusing on what do we want and what do we need as a district in order to be financially secure.
And I completely agree with your statement, Mr. Miller. Start and move forward.
All right.
But if I'm going to say this and I'll rest my case because obviously it doesn't get through to the board members and you'll never understand it. But obviously, if you think about anything from this meeting tonight, think about the fact that you say it cost our children $23,000. It did not cost our children $23,000. And this is a proposal I want to make to our board members at this point. Since you are so concerned about the $23,000, I asked the board members at this point. I am, and I'll join with you in this. I ask our board members, so our children don't pay twice for our mistakes as a board. Forego your per diem and your mileage and any money you would get until the $23,000 is paid back to this district.
I didn't ask for that $23,000 audit. You should be paying for the $23,000 audit, not me.
And Mr. Murray,
I didn't ask for it and I didn't want it.
The per diem, unless you get in my bank account and you look, do you know where my monthly per diem goes? Do you know that I don't give it right back to the committees I'm on and the children of the school system?
No, ma'am.
Okay, so do not sit there and tell me that I'm taking money away and I need to give up my per diem, because unless you can see my checkbook, you don't know where I give it to.
I never said that you didn't go back to it. I asked for it to go towards the audit.
Why would it go towards the audit? I want it to go towards our students, not towards the audit that costs us $23,000.
I remember about 2 years ago that Ms. Giles had to pay back almost $300, $299 it goes to mine. because she used the car off on a trip more than necessary, and it was you, Mr. Murray, that insisted upon that.
Yes, sir.
So, like I said, you asked for the audit, come up with $23,000 to pay for it.
And you know, Chad, if I needed that money, that per diem that bad, I give it back to the children. If I needed that per diem that bad, I would have taken the $60 you offered me in the parking lot last year. Now, I am done. I'm ready to move on.
All right, we've discussed it, let's move on. The next item is policy, and it's a second reading of 0.303.125 and 03.225, which is expense reimbursement.
This is just, last time we were trying to clean up some language on should a person decide within that 80-mile radius to stay overnight at the hotel, that we would reimburse them up to the cost of whatever we would have paid them to drive back and forth. So we bounced it off KSBA again. Mr. Crawford made some suggestions as to how that language should read, and we think it reads fairly clearly now that if, let's say I go to a conference in Louisville and I decide for whatever reason I want to spend the night rather than drive back, I can get a hotel room, and you won't probably reimburse me for the whole cost of the hotel room unless I find a really cheap one, but you would reimburse me up to the whatever you would have normally paid me to drive back and forth.
This is the one that Mr. Crawford was gonna look at, the KSB,
Right.
didn't
Yes.
want to put that.
And he drafted some
Shouldn't
language.
shouldn't it have some language in there saying that if the weather is bad or predicted to be bad, that they can call Mr. Huber and get a okay to spend the night?
Mr. Wilson, it's got in here with approval of the
With
superintendent.
approval,
We put
okay.
it- It's in there in 2 or 3 different
I
times.
haven't seen it, so I don't
Yeah.
know.
So if there was a safety concern, someone got to a conference, say in Lexington or Louisville, or even Frankfurt, and the weather turned bad, you know, it snowed, or whatever safety issue they felt was affecting their travel, they could call and we could approve them to spend the night, and then we would cover the full cost of the hotel, because we don't want to put anyone's safety in danger. At risk, not in danger.
So do we need to approve
It would be approval of the second reading.
second reading?
Second reading, yes, you need to approve it.
Okay, I would make a motion to approve second reading of expense reimbursement.
I'll second her motion.
Okay, any more discussion on that? Vote? Okay, it's approved unanimously. Approval of waiver of policy, graduation requirements for students. I don't think we need, do we need to vote on that?
Yes.
Yes.
All right.
This is a student who has completed all the graduation requirements through the alternative school program or through a credit recovery program at the high school, and they just need your all's blessing to go ahead and graduate and move down that next stop on the pathway to excellence.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second that.
All right, any more discussion, vote, unanimous. All right, discussion of lunch charge policy.
This is something we started discussing last month. Ms. Sebring brought to us that lunch charges were mounting. She and I have both done a little research, and she has put together a great informational piece here for you for us to discuss tonight and talk about how we want to deal with the mounting lunch charge problem. And give you guys a second to look over that, and we can.
I have been in meetings the last couple of weeks, and while I was there, I discussed with other food service directors and districts what they do. The majority of them do the alternative meals. Some of them don't give a meal at all. They're not allowed to walk at graduation. No extracurricular activities. They turn it over to attorney for collection. They have the county attorney send letters to parents, or they take the parents to court. That was what surrounding districts and OVAC districts do.
Here's what we're currently doing. Right now at the lower elementary and maybe the upper elementary, they're sending letters home in backpacks with students, reminding parents that they have lunch charges. Ms. Sebring is mailing letters home to those students that have lunch charges. And then every Friday, Mr. Spahn has established a system that it goes into the lunch accounts, pulls up their current balance, and I believe everybody gets an email, whether it's a positive balance or a negative balance, it gets sent to them via email. So that's what we currently have in place. Now, at the last meeting, I told you I'm not a big fan of alternative meals. I told you the hard feelings it creates with parents when you take a meal out of that kid's hand, throw it away, and then hand them an alternative meal. Now, the upside to that is we don't charge for the alternative meal. The sad thing is it costs us twice. It costs us for the cost of the lunch we just threw away, and it costs us to make the peanut butter sandwich. Ms. Sebring and I talked today is maybe we want to do that, but not for every kid that owes $3 because they just forgot and got a little bit behind. But maybe we set a price limit on that and say if you owe over $100, we need to talk about maybe doing an alternative meal. So that's one possibility for you all to consider. You can just scratch not giving a meal at all. I don't want to see any kid
it's going to be left
not
up to
get
the
a
board.
meal. Yeah,
What we do.
Well, so we don't waste any more time tonight, with all due respect, Mrs. Sebring. After sitting here talking about the money we've wasted in this district, I'll be dead gone if I ever take a dime out of our children's mouths. So we're wasting time. I'm sure the board will approve this later and take money or food out of our children's mouths, but I'm not interested in it.
Well, some other options that we want to explore is, can we work with the county attorney's office? Maybe he can draft us up a letter that, we can, maybe we put it in his envelope so it's coming from him. So, I agree that we pay the postage on it, so his office sending out the postage, but just some work together with the county attorney's office to try to collect these. Ms. Sebring said there's some places that are using small claims court. I don't know what the cost of that would be. If we're trying to collect $25 from someone, I'd say that's a lose for us as far as trying to go to small claims court. So the main thing here is to know that nobody knows the answer to this question. That there is not a solution out there that someone's using that's hugely effective. But you can see where the total charges right now, we're at $4,888. And most of those are not our free and reduced lunch kids. Those are our full pay kids that aren't qualified for free and reduced lunch at this point. Not saying they couldn't qualify if they would fill out the daggone form and send it in, but there is no magic bullet out there. So
We can put it on the agenda for another night.
Yeah.
Mr. Beaver, can I say something? In the past, I believe, like you had alluded to, we did not want to do alternative meals.
Right.
We did not want a child to go through the line and then say, "You've got a bill because you've got an alternative meal."
And that's
Well, wait a minute.
the way
Let
they
me finish, please. So what we did as a board was we decided to pick up those charges. So at the end of the school year, Ms. Sebring always would send out what the charges were, and we as a board would pay that.
She did tell me that there were some years that you all did that, but the last couple of years we have not done that. What I want to be careful is that we don't make that blanket statement, because then everybody quits paying.
I realize that.
And then we pick up the full tab. So.
And I have 12 children, and some of them are the same family that owe over $100.
Well, I would like to have time to look at this, because it's the first time I've seen these numbers.
Yeah.
I don't agree with taking food out of children's mouth, and I don't agree in discriminating and making children look different by what they eat. So I would like to look
Yeah,
at
and
this.
we haven't, we kicked around the idea of, setting some thresholds for things, like, we're not gonna take you to small claims court unless you owe $200 to make it worth, the cost of going to small claims court to get this, but
why
we
don't
do have to
just
do
let the
something
board
to
members
curtail
have
it.
time to look at this? We'll put it on the agenda for another day. It's not something we have to do tonight.
Mr. Crawford, Mr. Crawford, what are your other districts doing?
Every district has this very
Something
same
different.
problem. This is a summary of what I've heard in other districts. There's no magic bullet to solve this problem. It is a difficult problem.
But one bullet that would help a ton is if we could just get folks to fill out the form at the beginning of the year, because some of these folks have these charges that are now qualified for free and reduced lunch, but she can't go back and just wipe away those. So if we could just get folks to fill out the free and reduced lunch form, that would be a huge step towards solving this. So you table it for next month, put it back on the agenda?
Can we do that, Becky?
Absolutely.
Table
Okay.
that.
You good with that?
Next month.
All right, so now all we're done
Wait a
is
minute.
facility.
Okay, can we combine C under facilities, approval of School Facilities Construction Commission, KETS, offer of assistance, $13,282. And number 2, approval of School Facilities Construction Commission, offer of assistance, $11,806. Can we combine them? Do we need a vote on
You
that?
can do one motion to approve both of those.
One motion to
Yeah.
approve both of them.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Motion to approve C
Is
one
there
and two.
any other discussion? Okay, we need to vote now. Unanimous. Okay,
Alright, so
we
then
took
discussion
care
of bus
of 2 of
garage.
them. Now we need discussion of the bus garage.
All right,
I
good.
brought something in, what did we? I have a suggestion, and it's just something to think about. I noticed in the paper, Gosman Incorporated over in Indiana, they're the ones who built my detached garage. They have a 40 by 60 with 2 doors for $11,900 advertised in the paper. We're gonna need 2 doors, but we're gonna need larger than any 40 or 60 by 40. It'll probably be about, what'd you figure, 60 by 88?
60 by 85.
60 by 85. So it's probably gonna be at least, probably $25,000. Am I in the ballpark? Am I in the ballpark? For a pole barn? Yeah. 60 by 88, about 25,000. Just the shell, just the shell. 11, okay, I had somebody else tell me about 10. So that's about $10 or $11 a square foot. And then we could contract it out to have a floor put in. It's got to be, with buses on it, it's got to be at least 8 to 10 inches thick with a pit. And along the sides, we could use our maintenance people and put their own, we would buy the shelves, of course, put their own shelves up as far as storing their parts, make an office on the side. This is just something I'm thinking in my mind, you know. And we could probably do, we've got $160, right?
In the construction fund, we're gonna have, from the Wildcat Academy, we should have about 150,000 or 160,000 that we can roll over into this project,
So
correct?
If we owe the company $70,000, the balance in the construction fund right now is $272.
So we're looking at right around $200,000 that we're gonna roll. One option for us would be to roll that into this next item on the facilities plan, which is the bus garage. So that would give us $200,000 that we could start exploring and or help to build a new facility with.
My suggestion is we wait a couple more months. They put up with it this long. I know it's asking a lot, but wait until the weather breaks a little bit, tear that building down, and we'll have a space to put the new, and a pole barn, if you put siding on it and stuff, is a good-looking building. I know, I like my garage, and that's what it is, basically, a pole barn.
But we've got several places that a building that size would fit, so we can examine that. What KDE has recommended is, they say for a bus fleet our size, we need a 2-bay garage, 2 maintenance bay garage, and a 3rd bay for offices, part storage, tool storage, etc. They recommended 85 by 60, which is a 5,100 square foot building. If we went with KDE specs and hired an architect, and we're gonna have to hire an architect if we're gonna do construction, and I don't think there's any way of getting around that. They're saying to budget $200 a square foot, but I'm like Mr. Wilson. I think we could do something cheaper once we start working with the architect and get this thing down to what makes sense for us, get the bus garage mechanics involved in the design of this thing. Their $200 a square foot is what they said to budget for that, but that also included all the major tool items that would be in the garage, the wiring, the whole 9 yards. So that puts us around $1 million for an 85 by 60 square foot building. I think we could do it significantly cheaper if we went pole barn, because I'm sure that their calculations are based on brick and mortar and, taking it to the hilt. But we've been up, looked at Walton Verona's bus garage. It's basically a pole barn. Nice facility, speed, and then we're very happy with that. They just need something better than what we're giving them.
Anything we could give him, he was at a meeting, he said, throw me a 10 out there. Be better than what I've got.
So
We just desperately need a new bus garage.
I think the next step in this process would probably be having you all at the next board meeting discuss this again, talk about what we want to do with that basically $200,000 that's in the capital outlay fund. If y'all decide you want to roll it into this new thing, then we can start exploring a site. I think, again, on-campus site, so we're not having to put money out for land. I think, again, we've got plenty of space here. We just got to decide what makes the most sense. And then maybe go ahead and enlist an architect and get a drawing. That doesn't mean we have to move forward and build it quite yet, but at least we'd be that much farther along.
Is Mr. McFarland still here?
No, I think he's left.
Oh, I had a couple questions for you, Mr. Wilson. On the December 22nd meeting, you had came to the board and number one had asked if the board would consider going to the closed session with Mr. McFarland, that he had asked that of us. There was a number you had thrown out, $1,300 a month for the county, which is Mr. McFarland, to build us a bus garage. You also alluded to 20 years of us paying payments of around $1,300 a month, and then we would own it. Where did that conversation come from? Was that a conversation between you and Mr. McFarland?
Well, of course it was. I didn't just make it up.
Okay, so you did make it up.
Yes,
because
I met with him.
after I left the meeting on the 22nd, I called a magistrate, which is actually sitting in the audience tonight, and I asked the magistrate what conversation has transpired about a bus garage being built by the county. The magistrate had no idea of it, so therefore I went further and went to the fiscal court and did an open records request asking for all information pertaining to this subject. So is this just dealings we do that gets us in the situation we're talking about in the audit? When I'm going to go backwards, so I'll move forward on that subject. But, if the magistrate doesn't know anything about it, how can you guys discuss it and bring it before this board and build us a bus garage?
This was, we didn't sign very many contracts. As a matter of fact, we didn't sign any contracts. We had a casual conversation between, I think he's my nephew or cousin, I don't know which. We had a casual conversation about how bad we need a bus garage.
I agree with that, sir.
He threw out some ideas. This is just off the top of his head. He did not commit the fiscal court to anything.
Well, when I went and spoke with him, I'll agree
And-
that he had denied the conversation 100%.
Who did?
I'll give you that. Mr. McFarland said he did not tell you those things. So that's why I'm asking tonight, because I can't get a straight answer from the court. I can't get a straight answer from a board member that proposed something to this district, so.
I didn't propose anything. I just gave you some information.
All right.
Trying to keep you informed, Chad, so that
Thank you.
you'll know what's going on.
All right, thank you.
But we didn't come to any agreements or anything.
Okay.
And I brought it to the board out in the open, so everybody would know what's going on. And we just had a casual conversation is all it was. We did not determine any final decisions. And he can't do that without the fiscal court's approval.
Absolutely.
I mean, that's ridiculous. Why even bring it up? You're just trying to start trouble again. There you go. You're just so good at that.
Is this something y'all want to continue to pursue with KDE as far as?
Absolutely. I think we
Getting
need
some.
to look at
They sent me a couple architectural drawings. We would probably have to even, I guess we'd have to put out some bids to architects to see who we want to use. But again, it's professional services, as long as it's under, well, that wouldn't be under 20,000. There's no way anybody's doing it less than that. We'd have to get somebody to bid it out, and I don't know if we want to go to that point yet. Do you want me to go to that point and say, come down here and take a look at our sites and start at least getting some proposals from architects as to what they would charge us to take on a project like this?
My personal opinion, to answer that question, I think it would be best for all board members to be here, because I think it is an input from all board members.
Okay.
That's just my opinion. I mean, I don't know what the rest of the
Well,
board feels on
I
that.
think that Mr. Tainch and the new board member when that comes about.
Okay.
Will they be here at the next meeting, you think?
The new board member will not be for sure.
But possibly.
Possibly by the second meeting in
Second
February,
meeting
we'll
in
have the new
February.
board member.
So I think we ought to table that. I agree with you on that.
Except we all believe we need we need a bus
Oh, we
garage.
definitely need a bus garage, and we all know that, and I think we all are in agreement. We may not agree on everything, but I think we're all in agreement on that we definitely need a new bus garage. That's an eyesore out there.
Put that on.
Plus a hazard. It is. I understand the roof leaks in several places, and it's a hazard.
Yeah, we don't have a bus garage. Let's just put that out there. We have a building, but it is not a bus garage. All right.
All right, for personnel,
Okay, next one is approval of job description for athletic director.
Right.
What we found out was, because you'll see later on the agenda, Mr. Jones has put in his resignation as athletic director. We had a dual job description. It was dean of students / athletic director. We didn't have just a plain athletic director job description. So I got with Mr. Jones, he kind of drafted one up, and that's what we presented to you this evening as far as a job description for athletic director, because we'll need that in place as we move forward to hire someone to replace him.
where's my copy of
We have co-athletic directors right now, right?
Yes,
Linda and
this
John.
would apply to both positions.
That's what I'm-
Yes.
Vicki, I just pulled up a copy. You wanted to see a copy. I have it linked.
that? Okay, thank
I'm sorry, it's coming up slowly.
I can't read.
I'll make that motion.
It's also on your iPad.
My
I'll
battery's
second
about
that.
shot.
Kevin,
All right, what's the motion?
To approve.
approve, athletic
To
director.
approve the athletic director, and we have a second. Those in favor? Aye. Okay, Director of Finance, I think
Okay.
we've already,
Well, the salary schedule is the piece that we're looking at. And what I've done is I took Mr. Gamble's daily wage threshold and, basically if he were to work full-time for us at his daily wage threshold, this would be the wage he would make in his current years of experience. So basically what this boils down to for you guys is we're paying him $40.01 an hour. I think it's, or $44.01 an hour. I can't, I got it on here somewhere. It is
he said it was 40.
44.01, yeah, cents an hour. And that is his daily wage threshold based off his retirement, and KTRS tells us that. Now, I've built this specifically for him because I want to make sure that our salary schedule matches what we're paying him per the auditor's report. So, should he decide that this isn't working for him, or should I decide it's not working for the district, which I don't plan on at this point, I hope we're all happy, then as we look to rehire, we would re-examine this salary schedule. I just think we found a real, don't get your head big here, Kelly, but I think we found a real gem hidden in our community here. I'll tell you that the folks in the finance office that work with him are very happy. Ms. Sebring is shaking her head yes. I think their dealings have been very positive. And I think he could do a world of good for our financial situation. I don't think I mentioned that not only is he the retired, I don't think I said this, he's also a CPA, and that's one of the things we said we were going to try to look for in his positions.
Isn't that one of the recommendations on the audit?
Yes.
That it would be a CPA. So, do we need a vote on that, or?
This is only going to be in effect till the end of the school year, correct?
Yes, and at which point we'll have to relook at all, approve a whole new salary schedule. Yes.
So do we need a motion? Don't we need a motion on that?
Yes, I
approve
think you
the
do. Need to do that.
4401?
And remember, he's working by the hour, so that maximum number you saw there at 25 years,
That's why I'm sitting here thinking,
Yeah,
if he's
he's-
working in an hour, how are we approving this? And
I think
Because
that's-
that is his
I
hourly
understand.
rate.
That's a good question. What exactly are you asking for when you say you want that salary schedule approved?
well, that, if he were to work a 40-hour week at $44.01 an hour, that's how much he would make. And so we're just kind of prorating it based off the hours that he's working, because he's only working half.
we
He's
should
not working a
approve
full-time
based
position.
on that. We can't approve a salary schedule and that, can we?
Okay, so that was an example that you were
Well,
trying to use.
because right now, it may come that he says, I can't do this part-time, I need to do it full-time. And then he would start turning in 40 hours a week.
I understand, but isn't your motion that they approve the hourly rate you're suggesting that you're paying him as opposed to the?
We can do that. Yeah, that would work. I mean, either way, we're getting at the same number, so.
Right.
And since we are paying him hourly, that probably is a better way to do it.
We need a motion for that.
Mr. Huber, can I speak for a second?
Sure.
If you pull the
Well,
graph
it's
back.
not, it's up to this man, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry,
Nikki. It's up to you.
If you pull the graph back up, which I know, Chad had a discussion on what was being made by the last financial officer. If you look at the 20-year figure on there, the salary just showed was $82,000. I mean, just so you don't, it makes no difference. She fulfilled the job. I mean, I understand he's got a certification. I understand that. And that's what was recommended by the audit. But I mean, just don't, think that those salaries get thrown out lightly.
Okay.
I mean, she
All
was,
right.
she was over a 20-year employee,
Okay.
and it, that is a huge number. I'm a 30-year employee and I don't like that.
Okay, thank you, Jamie. All right,
So the
I think
motion-
we need to go back to the table.
I think the motion needs to be 44.01 cents per hour. I think that makes more sense.
does anybody want to make that motion?
I'll make a motion to,
And you put some limits on the time.
I'll make a motion to approve the
Well-
44.01 an hour with, I believe what Mr. Crawford's saying is with the limitations as the audit said, so it's not just an open.
Well, the limitations need to be on there to begin with. I mean, I don't know what you're,
What kind of a limitation?
as far, I mean,
Hours.
that's an open-end,
Pardon me?
that's an open-end contract again that we cannot have, that we just got in
Well,
trouble
if
for.
you
All
put
right,
a,
then we say not to exceed 40 hours per
Exactly.
week.
That'll work.
okay, that'll work.
What about the mileage thing? The mileage?
There is no mileage.
There is no mileage, okay.
Okay, do
Sorry.
I have a second for that then? 44.01 per hour.
And just to be clear, his time starts when he walks in the door and clocks in, and his time stops when he walks out the door and clocks out.
So we're not gonna pay him to work and
Nope,
pay him mileage also and
no.
3 other different things? That's good. We're making headway here.
All right, I need a second on that. I have a motion. I'll second it.
Who made the motion? I'm sorry, I lost it.
Sonia made a motion that we set the salary at 44.01 at a limitation of no more than 40 hours per week. Hopefully it doesn't come down to that,
I don't think he
That's
wants
a-
to work 40 hours a week. So
but that's a max-
he's
that's a
retired.
max- That's a maximum anyhow. All right, we have a motion and seconded. Any more discussion? Voting then, it passed unanimous. 44.01. All right, the next item is discussion of the 2015-16 school calendar options.
Okay, just to be clear, we are not asking for any decision tonight. We were just presenting these 3 options as a
We have-
preliminary discussion of the board. So
We
that
have-
way you guys can give us some direction on, you want us to combine things, you want us to, you don't like any of them, scrap it?
You
You
skipped
skipped
one.
what?
You skipped one.
You skipped the item?
Number 3.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, yeah, we have to go back though.
I didn't have it on my agenda, that's
Gee,
fine.
no, Vicki, we're not going back. Just go down. You skipped number 3 then.
Oh, okay, I did, didn't I?
All right,
Yes.
this is approval of a waiver. We have a policy in place in our, it's really not a policy in place, it's our salary schedule. Our salary schedule says you cannot earn full-time teacher pay as a substitute until you have worked for the same teacher for 20 consecutive days. On the 21st day, that substitute starts earning full-time teacher pay. We currently have a sub who is working in a very difficult room. She has been doing so for a long period of time. She's earning the full-time substitute pay currently, doing a great job. She is a cancer survivor and has symptoms that maybe her cancer is returning, so she needs to take a sick day. which means she would break the 20 days and have to start again.
No.
I'm asking for a waiver of that policy to continue to pay this lady the salary that I believe she deserves for the job she's doing.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second that.
All right, any more discussion on it, or any discussion?
And pray that her test comes back negative.
Yes. We are.
All right, vote for it, Joe. That's unanimous. That, she gets, we waiver that policy. All right, now we get into the discussion of 15-16 school calendar options.
Now,
And as Travis, Mr. Huber said, we've got three options. I have three options here in front of me.
and Ms. Booth can talk you through these three options.
Yeah, Ms. Booth.
And
would
again,
you,
we're not asking for any decision this evening,
we're not gonna
just
vote on
general
this.
guidance.
This is not a voting night tonight for this. This is just a discussion night. We want some input from everybody here.
First of all, these are three drafts that we did come up with, but they don't have to be three drafts that we stayed. And I heard someone say scrap them all, and you know, that is an option. And I do want to make that very clear.
When you said we, who was we that came up with them?
Actually, Mr. Huber and I talked
Okay.
about it. No committee had been formed. Actually, I didn't really know it was going to come to the board this soon.
Okay.
I just kind of want to make that clear. And I did some research with what some other districts are doing, but that does not mean that we need to go with those of starting school later. All three calendars have us starting school on the later in August, as opposed to the 3rd, 4th, or the 5th of August. Draft C had no type of break in October, and these were put before the administrators in an administrative meeting, and the administrators said there should be some type of break. So, looking at A and B, we put smaller breaks throughout the year. These drafts can be combined, these drafts can be scrapped, these drafts can, we can rework it. I think starting school later seems to be a popular thing to do based on one thing, heating, or not heating, but the heat and air conditioning, the hot buses and so forth. Also, many times when you start school on the 3rd or the 4th of August, that means teachers are coming back in July with PD and so forth, and it's pretty much cutting the summer short. Obviously, we absolutely never know what type of weather we're going to have, whether we have no snow days, a few snow days, or lots of snow days like we did last winter. You can't predict that. That's impossible. One thought of having smaller breaks throughout is to have as many instructional days before winter as we can, and we kind of get those days under our belt a little bit. Spring break, no one likes to have their spring break taken away either. Last year, the board did decide to do that. We had to do that because we missed, I believe, 19 snow days. So when you look at, for example, days in April being used as makeup days, that's kind of a choice.
That we can see, because I've never seen it, and I don't know if there's one that you can bring up.
I don't know if she brought those up.
Brought them all. Just a second. Which one?
Any of them, I work in this district and haven't seen it, but I've had people in the community come and ask me questions, and I work here and have never even been able to see a copy of it.
They've been linked for quite a while.
So I'm not sure how they got it.
very easy to find on that link.
I'm
I'm
Okay.
sorry, I just link it.
Actually, we came up with the three drafts. We talked about it in an administrative meeting, and then Mr. Huber held some focus group meetings, a certified and a classified so far, and passed them out then. So that's kind of how they got out into the public. Really before there was a lot of discussion on it.
Okay, 'cause like I said, I've never even,
I
until
understand.
parents came and, said, well, why are you letting this happen? First of all, I told them, it's not me, I don't even know anything about it, so.
Here's one option.
This is option A. Option A has got, look, in October, you'll see we put in a 4-day weekend for a fall break. It's a long weekend from the 9th through the 12th. And then we still take the normal Thanksgiving break. And go back up, Becky, please. If you'll notice, we're not starting school until a lot later than what you normally do. The first day for kids would be the 18th of August. So that's where you get your trade-off. The reason that I wanted to start later is because those are the hottest days of the year. Those are the days when the kids are going to be on the bus, sweating more. And those are the days when we're going to be running that electricity harder, costing the district more money, keeping that air conditioning going. If you go down to, we still keep in a full week of spring break over in April, but we plan on taking a full week of spring break, but we thought it was best to put 3 days of possible makeup in there. That way we don't surprise it on people. You know, if we had to take those 3 days for snow days, we could, but we thought it was best so people could plan, hey, those days may go away. Because I think y'all took some last year, right? Yeah.
I don't know what the rest of the board has heard from the community. My main thing I've heard is just people wants the spring break week and the fall break. A lot of people use fall break, it's less expensive, so that's just what I've heard throughout the community. I don't know what my other board members have heard.
That's what I've heard also, except, and then only other concern that I've had other than the fall break was the smaller students in the lower grades starting on a Tuesday instead of a Thursday. To where typically they start on Thursday, by Friday they're wore out, they got the weekend to sleep, they come back on Monday. That was the only other concern I had.
As a teacher of very small children, that's true.
Just by looking at this,
And it's hard on the staff,
I like
too.
A better than the other two. And by eliminating the 12th of October, which is one of the 4 days of the 4-day weekend Mr. Huber was talking about, and putting it up in the week of the 5th, take that away, jump it up there a week, take the Monday before Election Day, and Ms. Booth has informed me that we have to take Election Day. We cannot use Election Day. But Monday before we can use. That would be 2 of the 4 days. And then we could take the Wednesday before Thanksgiving, and that would be 3 of the 4 days that we need to make up. We only need to make up 1 more.
So can you go down just a little bit, Becky? Can you scroll down just a little bit? So you're saying take the
Wednesday before.
So we'd have a 4-day weekend for Thanksgiving.
We need that Wednesday for people that travel.
You do?
Yeah.
Attendance will be low, it'll be a low attendance day.
Low attendance.
When does this actually have to be done, Travis? Like, I mean, when do we actually have to have this approved? I mean, because what I'm hearing from everybody,
When's it gotta be done?
from what I'm hearing, I mean, are we,
Well,
need to probably have a calendar?
I think a good goal for us all to have is to try to get it approved in February. I was looking for some direction from the board to what type of things we would want to keep in there. Again, I'm kind of putting this as me and I did this, and which I did, but just going through some options that I have heard throughout. Believe me, there's lots of options out there, and there's lots of ideas out there, and that's good, and I think we should listen to them all. So whatever kind of
So last year, we had a calendar committee, there was a calendar committee.
yeah, and we haven't, that hasn't even been done yet. When Ms. Young says she hasn't seen a draft yet, I understand that. This did not come before the board to make a decision tonight, or to even go with these 2 drafts. That was never the intent. It kind of got construed into that.
So I personally like option B. I think it's B. What's B?
You can't tell them apart because they're not different.
I like
A and B are essentially the same calendar.
I like C, actually, is my favorite.
A and B are the same calendar. C varies by 2 days. If you take the 2 days away from fall break,
to make
put them
up.
down for a full Thanksgiving
Yeah.
week. So that's the only difference in the three scenarios.
Everyone
Yes.
I talked to does not want a full Thanksgiving week.
Yeah.
They just want the 3 days.
Too close to the break.
Because it's too close to fall break.
I think the easiest solution is to pull it back to that Tuesday before that week, since we want the kids to start on pull back to the Thursday, since we want the younger kids to start on a Thursday, not a Tuesday, and bring your fall break back. That's what we're all upset about.
Could we as a board just vote to maybe go back to the drawing table, put some issues out there? Is it very hard to put a survey out again and let's just do it and let the community have the input and then take the decision from there?
I don't think we need to vote on this tonight at all.
No, we were not going to.
All right, we'll take it back to the drawing board.
Can there be a survey? I don't think any of us saw one. I mean,
Last
that
year
may
has
be-
not been one.
Okay,
There
so
has
This
to
that's
has
be.
kind of come up very,
Yeah. Right, that may
really
be
before.
helpful to get a little input from
Absolutely.
everybody.
But
Absolutely.
when could we expect to know? Because I know several other districts, they've already got their calendars out for next year.
Well, that's why we were trying to go ahead and try to
If you
get,
look, most of
get
them
some
don't have a
drafts
fall
out
break.
there.
Some, a lot of them
Is
do.
that right?
Campbell
No,
County
it
does,
just
Walton
says
Borough does.
Mississippi.
Owen doesn't.
Yeah. Carroll
Is it-
County,
is this
Walton Borough,
affecting all
and
like
Campbell.
vocational school?
That means community
Oh, it's not
decision.
No,
vocational school.
they'll be in session when we do those in
So
session.
it wouldn't affect the vocational school.
They'll work when we.
Okay, well, since we're not gonna vote on this anymore, I think is there any more discussion on it? Let's
I
move
think we're all
on.
here to make sure we get our full break.
Yeah.
That's fine.
The general.
Can I go on vacation? You sure can. Where are you going?
Let's do it. 34 of us.
All right, let's move on. The next item is approval of the out-of-district applications. We could also combine that probably, Ms. Crawford, with the issue of out-of-district board member travel. We don't-
No, you probably need to keep those separate.
Okay. Do we need to vote on the
Yes.
out-of-district applications?
These are students that either are asking that live in Gallatin County and are asking to go to another school system for whatever reason, or they live, which is it?
No, basically, these are the contracts that we have with the surrounding districts.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I was still thinking county.
All right, so contracts we have with the surrounding districts, all of them, this one in particular says it'll be anybody that wants to switch can switch. Now, I'll tell you about doing that, you could have 10 students jump up tomorrow and say, I want to go to this district. And we'd have to approve it because that's what this contract says, and that costs you money. When a student leaves this district and goes to another district, they take their ADA seat money with them, and that costs you $3,600-ish. $3,900. So every student that leaves here, that we don't get a one-for-one swap, we're losing $3,900 from that student, from the state.
The majority of our out-of-district students, actually, all of them, maybe except one or two, are employees. Our employees, bringing their students from another district here.
Or,
And then we've got some going,
yeah.
some are to private Catholic schools and some are to other districts.
So are we asking here to approve in general all of them? Because I know typically we would do, there may be, I mean, there's never names on there, maybe 2 students.
Now, this is approving
Or
the
is this
contract
approving
that we
these
have with the other
contracts?
districts.
Okay, this is for.
I think one of them in here is Walton Verona.
Mhm.
So we would say, any student that wants to leave Walton Verona and come here can, or any student that wants to leave here and go to Walton Verona can, and we're not gonna hold anybody back.
That's what has been done in the past.
Yeah. Now,
And it's normally
We all
worked out,
signed it.
has it not? It's normally close working out as far as going back and forth.
I can give you, because I'm just now starting to get the information of the students that are going to other districts, like when I get these contracts, I get those names. So next month, I can give you a report on how many we have from another district as opposed to how many of our students are going out.
it's not terribly lopsided, but
It's a little,
It's a
but
little.
not
We
a
have
whole lot.
more-
So do you
It
recommend
kinda-
doing
Which
this?
way is it lopsided?
I mean, honestly, it's what we've always done.
Okay, I'll make
Which way
that.
is it lopsided, Rob?
I think maybe we have a few more going out than we have coming
Going
in.
out and coming in?
But don't quote me on that, I wanna get the
Now,
exact
another
number.
option on these, instead of allowing mass transfers, is to say, we'll do it on a one-for-one swap. And I don't know, Kelly, what did you guys do?
Well, we had contracts with probably 30 districts, but the one thing, if you don't accept the contract with the district, then the employee that's bringing their child down here you're gonna have to charge them $3,900.
Yeah.
I don't think we want to get into that. I'll make a motion to approve this.
I'll second that.
And I'll have a report for you next month on the numbers.
Okay,
Yeah,
let's
vote.
vote. All in favor? Unanimous. Okay, now, the KSBA Winter Conference.
Yeah.
Is anybody interested in going to that?
I think most of us have to go to that to get our training hours in, so I'm definitely interested to go.
Yeah, you'll either have to go to this one or the one in the summer.
I think this one gives you enough hours so you don't have to attend another one.
Is that about right, Becky? Does this one give you the
Either
more
or.
offerings at this one?
It's about the same.
Is it?
It's
Okay.
apples and oranges, it doesn't matter. I do need to know, though, who wants to attend this ASAP. We've got to get this registered.
I would like to attend to get my training hours in.
Do we have a motion to move to approve, or you just said you need to?
But I just want to go. I'll let someone else move to make the first motion anyway.
I'll move to approve out-of-district board member travel, and I also need to go back, I'll let you know, on Friday
Y'all
or
will just shoot me
Saturday.
an email as to your intention.
I'll second that motion, so. All in favor? Unanimous. Okay. How about the travel? Does that fall under the 03.125?
Well, this is just would be a quick day trip. They're having the Kids First Advocacy Day in Frankfurt to go talk to legislatures about just what's going on in your school district and kind of do a meet and greet. You know, it'd be a great chance to let them know they, once again, have unfunded mandates for us in this raise, as well as continue to increase district expenses. You know, they say they're not cutting education, but they keep passing these hidden costs to us that we have to pick up at the local level. So it's a great time to go talk to our legislatures. They recommend, KSBA does, 1 or 2 board members from each board come down, as well as the superintendent. So if you all want to go, I just thought we approve the travel up front. And basically just be mileage down and back.
I would move to approve board member out-of-district travel for the Kids First, and then I guess I could approve and decide.
Yeah, I'll second that.
Just a little discussion. I know our student board members showed interest in going to this. Is this something he could go to also? Sure.
Who's that?
Ms. Christian? No.
Oh,
All right.
all vote. Unanimous.
That takes us down to what we tabled on the front, and that is the board members' communication and citizens and delegates.
Citizens and delegations.
Board-
Now's the
board
time
members
y'all
first.
can really get ready.
Board members first.
Board members first.
I know. Just calm down. Give me a little, I'm a little slow at this. I'm new at it. All right. Chad, do you have anything?
I actually have a couple issues. One issue I'd like to bring up, earlier in the week, I guess it would be towards the end of last week into this week, there was some emails going back and forth between board members, myself and Mr. Tange. In the process of those emails, once the conversation reached a certain point, Mr. Tange had shared emails with 3 other people in our community. And I have a problem with that. I know as board members, we are subject to open records requests. I don't have a problem with that whatsoever, anything I discuss at any time. But if there was something confidential that someone in this community had brought to my attention, or something with a child, and we were moving forward with these emails, and we start carbon copying other people that's not in the board, Mr. Crawford, what does that fall under legally?
Well, you've indicated correctly that they're all subject to open records, so I'm not sure that legally you've got an issue, because anybody, if you're going to use the process, you've got to recognize that potentially it can be divulged.
Okay.
What it really is a procedure or a working rule of the board. The board needs an understanding. If we're going to communicate by email on board district issues, it ought to be between us, unless we all agree to open it up broader than that. Again, for the simple reason that for the board to be at its best, it's gotta feel comfortable that if it communicates with another board member, you're communicating with the board members. You're not communicating with whoever, who you didn't intend to communicate with.
Exactly.
So I think it's an issue to bring up, and perhaps you need to just bring it up when board chair's here
And that's fine. And what we'll do at this point, since the board chair isn't here and this does involve him, let's put this on the meeting, sharing of emails on our next agenda, and we can discuss that in more detail at that point.
Get that, Becky?
If that's okay with the rest of the board
It's
to
all right
do.
with me.
Okay.
He needs to be here if it's about him.
Absolutely. The second thing I would like to bring to the board's attention is what I feel is pretty important, because we are going out and we're asking citizens in this community to fill out an application if you're interested in a board seat. What I'd like to draw the attention to the board tonight is this. On the very first question in the application, it asks the question, are you an officer of or employed by any city, county, consolidated, local government, or other municipality? The problem I have with that is we have a vice chairman that sits on this board that does work for the county. Pursuant to KRS 61.080, that's an incompatible office. No person shall at the same time be a state officer, a deputy state officer, or a member of the General Assembly and/or officer of a county, city, consolidated, local government, or other municipality, or an employee thereof. Just so I'm very thorough in this, officer means any person elected to a position by the voters or any person appointed to a position is created by the Constitution, the General Assembly, or a city, possesses a delegation of a portion of the sovereign power of the government, and it kind of goes on, but just to kind of bring your attention to what an officer is. So clearly, if you take it to the Office of the Attorney General, he rules in this case in OAJ 76-687, OAJ 77-697, and 77-487. A state officer may not serve as a county officer, county employee, city officer, or city employee. The following is a listing of some of the positions that are considered state offices. Following each office listed is a citation to the opinion of the Attorney General in which the office is discussed, and clearly it's a member of the county of the Board of Education. I spoke to Mr. Crawford about this very briefly at the beginning of the meeting, and I just want to make sure that as a board moving forward, we are not asking any different than what we require of our own board members sitting on the board.
What was your reply, Mr. Crawford?
My reply was that I would need to get some additional information, and I would answer the issue as your board attorney after I got the information.
Okay, so we need.
What kind of information would you need, Mr.
I
Crawford?
would want to know more detail about the employment and verify all of that, and I don't dispute necessarily anything that you have just read, but obviously I want to look at all that myself. I've had to make this determination before for other boards when it's come up, and I want to be totally fair to everyone. I want to make sure I've looked at all the facts before I give anybody a legal opinion here.
I assume that he's talking about me.
I think that's what he's indicating.
Driving the senior citizen bus, and I do it on a part-time basis, so that might affect it. It's not a full-time job. It's 2 days a week, and it's usually about a 4.5-hour day. So.
Is it a paid position?
It is a paid position, yes. Not much, but a paid position.
And again, I'm only trying to make sure we do everything within the legalness of the law that, because it's a first, I mean, someone brought it to my attention that it's a first question on the application. I mean, so.
And that application was sent to us from KDE, so I mean, we didn't.
Understand.
Yeah, that's not our.
Understand.
All right, moving on, citizens and delegations. Now's your chance.
What?
Oh, boy.
I'm okay.
You all right? Mr. Zimmer.
I just have one question. If we had not had the audit, would there have been any change in the finance department of Gallatin County School District?
Yes.
It was already in process, yeah, in progress, yeah.
I'll tell you that as I prepared for my interview for this position, I watched many of the board meetings, and I asked questions about who is that person speaking on behalf at the meetings for the finance department that was not the finance director. So I was already, it was kind of on my radar screen, and as I went through the interview process, it became farther on my radar screen. I didn't understand it, so I would have looked into it probably, maybe not this fast, but yeah, it would have
It would
changed.
not necessarily been forerunner in you coming with us.
Probably not, because generally when you walk into a new situation, you see everybody there. I may not have even known that she was hired as a consultant for a little while. It might have taken me a month to figure out that she wasn't an actually full-time employee of the school board. Because we've got a couple part-time people that work in the central office there on a part-time basis, so it might have taken me a little while to figure that out. But fortunately, the questions were already being asked, and it popped up on the radar screen pretty high. But yeah, I wouldn't have let that stand, because I don't see it as I don't see it as a good use of money. I had that discussion with my executive mentor who was assigned to me by KDE when you're a new superintendent, and we'd already had some discussions along that line of setting a goal of, it takes X dollars to run the finance department, so how much are we currently spending, and comparing it to local districts. So yeah, it wouldn't have, we'd have had a fix for it by now at least.
And I appreciate
You
his,
said that the audit confirmed that you should make that change?
Yes, absolutely.
and I appreciate your opinion, and I believe everything you said was just true. What I would like to add to that is this. Without me pushing that audit, the same people would have probably still been in power doing the same things they were doing, because it's been done for years. Pushing that audit made sure that people saw what was coming down the pipeline. That's my opinion.
And not only as a community member, but as a teacher, I appreciate what you do.
Yes, me too.
It kind of, I've got a master's degree, which I got for school, but before that, I was on my way to being a CPA myself. And it kind of infuriated me that, somebody was pulling down the money she was with a high school diploma.
Now, let me back
But
up. Let me back up for a
neither
minute.
here nor there.
I would have fixed the
Good
financial consultant position by now, because that is a contractual, and we had a 30-day
Right.
notification that we could have ended a contract. The actual finance director position would not have changed at this point if she had not decided to retire, because she would have been under a year's contract,
Right.
and it would have taken us until salary discussion to make any change in salary. So let me just be clear on, I was talking strictly financial consultant
Right.
at the time. Yeah, we'd have had that fixed by now, because it was a 30-day notification to end the contract.
Okay, does anybody else have it? All right, Mr.
I
Seaver?
can tell you that as the supervisor and being over the food service department, my people are some of the least paid people here, and they work the hardest. And I went to Connie and Pam several times, and they would not even talk to me about giving anybody a raise, even though my money does not come from any funding that anybody gets. It's money that we have to bring in for meals we sell. They would not even discuss that with me. And when I found out that Pam was basically doing Connie's job, making sure that she did it correctly because she didn't have the education to do it, I was infuriated. Because my people bust their butts, and we take money out of our own pocket and pay charges and buy extras for kids.
And I can vouch for that. I've worked at all three schools. I have took money from my pockets. At the end of the year, our kids, Martha can tell you, I was a manager for a while, our kids at the elementary had no charges. We would take money out of our own pocket and pay their charges. I never took a plate away from a child. I would take it out of my pocket and pay for their food.
Thank you. Very generous of you. Yes?
I would like to say a couple of things. First of all, I'm going to speak for myself, but because that's all I can do. But I've had many other people come to me and say the same thing because they know I attend these board meetings. I do appreciate the fact that we paid for the audit, because I do think in the long run it saved us way more money than the cost of the audit. And I was here to see many board meetings when he was pushing for those things to be fixed, and there was no agreement for those things to be fixed. So I do think we needed that audit, And I do think that was money well spent, and most of the teachers in our school agree with that, and most of the parents also agree, and many of them have expressed that, but I can only say that for myself tonight. Secondly, it's not really our finance director's fault that she didn't have the degree to do the job. It's the people who hired her in the first place, when we should have hired somebody with a degree. So it's not her fault. She was doing truly the best I think she could do.
I think so too.
But nonetheless, somebody made the mistake of putting somebody in there without the right credentials. So somebody needs to take responsibility for that. That was
But
my
that
main
somebody's
mistake.
not here.
Well, it doesn't matter. I mean, it doesn't matter. When we say we want to move forward, those things have to be fixed before you can move forward,
It's already
Vicki.
fixed, ma'am.
But they're just starting to be, but why are they being fixed? Why are they being fixed?
Well, for one reason, the lady, quit and.
Right,
moved
that's
on to
exactly
another
right.
job.
That's
Well,
exactly right.
Well, I'm answering your question.
That's what I'm saying. It wasn't anything that you
If you'll
did
let
to
me, I'll
fix
answer your
it.
question.
But it
The
wasn't
one lady-
anything we did to fix it. Is all I'm saying. I just wanted to state my point. This is my turn, right? You had your turn earlier. This is my turn. And then, thirdly, I do appreciate the job that you all do. I really do. But I have watched, and I do agree with Christian. We do need to move forward, and we have to work together because we are not setting good examples for our children in this
We
school.
certainly aren't.
We are
I
not.
agree
And if
with
we're going to
that
push
100%.
Leader and me and them being leaders and leadership skills, we need to learn to work together and
Absolutely.
love each other regardless. So even if you don't agree, we still have to get along, and I would like to see more of that.
I think you're correct. Anyone else?
I do have one question.
You've already had your.
Yeah, but it's on a different topic, because I forgot to mention it. On the application for the board position, does it mention anywhere, are you related to anybody that works at the school system?
Yes.
Yes, it does.
So
Yes, it
how
does.
did Leslie even
I never
get to
thought about
run?
That
the person
is a
that won the
different
race
process.
being
Huh?
related, but you would have thought that somebody would have mentioned that prior to
Well,
the
we
election.
knew it.
Okay, well, let me answer that question, because it was raised a couple of times. First of all, the school district does not have any legal responsibility to be involved in who runs or to give legal advice on it. Fortunately, that individual went to the elected official, finally, the county attorney, and asked for some advice, and he called me and I pointed the statute out to him. But by that time, I believe they were within hours of the election. So the point I'm making to you is this, neither the district, the board, or legal counsel for the board, did we have any responsibility to answer to the qualifications at that time of anybody running for the position. It's just something we're not supposed to do. You're not even supposed to be actively involved in it beyond you can vote or express an opinion, but
In fact, it was explained to me that it is not illegal for them to run, it is not illegal for them to be elected. No law is broken until they are sworn in.
True.
And it's really not, I mean, technically, it's a law is broken, but there's no real penalty other than they tell them they can't serve.
That's true. Because the employee could leave the position before they're sworn in, and it's fine.
Ms. Vincent?
I'm just wondering why we are, if we have a candidate for the position, and that candidate applied and had her paperwork turned in time, why are we continuing? I know that the state said, because this is the candidate. We have talked to Frankfurt, we know that they required 2, but
No, they never required to.
okay.
They
I
prefer,
talked
they
to
prefer
Joe.
to.
They prefer to.
They prefer to, they don't require to. But if you don't have to, within the time period has lapsed, why are we continuing for another 10 or 15 or 20 days when you have a candidate that is willing to do the job?
I can't answer that, ma'am. It is strictly out of our hands. This is now the Department of Education's hands. The Commissioner of Education has complete control. That's why the applications don't come to us. They go straight to the Commissioner's office.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I mean, we can distribute them, but they sent us the application to distribute, just to help proceed the process.
I understand your point, but his answer is correct.
I understand that.
Like it or not, it is the
Okay,
answer.
but if this, but why continue? Why is the state continuing to put off allowing a person to do that?
Honestly, I can't.
When you have the candidate?
I call every week and ask, you know, where are we in the process? Can we get something going? And,
Well, are we trying to get more people to run? It seems to me like that's what they're wanting,
I
is
want the
more
board seat
people.
filled.
So you're sort of answering your own question. They are looking, I suppose, at qualifications of people that are coming there, but I'm guessing when I answer that way, because I don't know the basis of what they're
I mean, it just
doing.
seems to me that you've had the person, they had a certain amount of time to get their paperwork in.
Yes, ma'am.
That time lapsed.
Yes, ma'am. And they've extended
Then
it.
so now they're continuing.
And when
Why
they
continue?
when they conduct the interviews with the applicants, they may take that into consideration that this person got their paperwork in on time, this person didn't. I don't know what the commissioner considers and what he doesn't. But when we started this process, they did say they wanted 2 qualified applicants before they conducted interviews.
Yes, sir, I
And then
understand
it
that.
expired, and they said, well, let's, in fact, when it expired the first time, we had no applicants.
No, that's
Well,
not
that-
true.
that's just what
Their
they told me.
paperwork was in.
Yeah, well, they told me that we had no applicants at the time.
That
So
I
we
know.
extended it 2 more weeks, and then I called after the first week, and they said they had Ms. Hendren's application, so.
Right.
Did you have something to say, Ms. Henry?
Yes, I'm telling, the gentleman I talked to, he said that it would be closed as of the 20th.
Yes.
And he was gonna give it 7 more days for the letter to come in, and be postmarked that day.
Correct.
Okay. And is that,
That
who are
would
you
be
speaking to?
today, the
Is
27th.
it John Thompson? Is that
Yes.
John? Okay.
Let me make sure that you all know that the board has
I
nothing to
understand
do.
that.
We understand
They
that.
have
We
nothing
understand that.
whatsoever to do with that. That's
Right.
strictly,
Jones. I don't know a lot of people in here. But I just want to say thank you to our elected officials who serve on the board. I know it's not an easy job. I work with 2 different boards myself in my professional career. I know it is not easy. So thank you for what you do. Thank you for the school district that we do have.
thank you.
I try to be very supportive of that. And thank you for listening for us tonight over the calendar for fall break. I am for a week-long fall break, if no one's figured that out. I'll put that 2 cents in there. But what I'm gonna say to you guys is, and I wish I could say this one-on-one to you, not in public. I want you guys to watch this tonight. Review back what happened in this board meeting. If this is the way all of your board meetings go, we're not moving ahead. We're not moving forward. You guys have got to learn to work together. Everybody's elected. We can't kick somebody off. We can't say you're just out because we don't like you. We can't overpower each other. You're gonna have to learn to bury the hatchets. You're gonna have to learn to quit digging up things from the past. What's happened in the past, even if it was wrong and it did cost us lots of money, we have got to move forward. Moving forward starts with you folks. You talk about being held accountable, I'm gonna start holding you accountable. Every time I see the behavior that I've seen tonight, I'm gonna bring it to your attention because it's ridiculous. You're here for my kids. I have 3 kids. You chose to be here. I want you to be here because many of the people that serve here are from the community and they've lived here. I've lived in Gallatin County my entire life. I'm 42 years old. I went through kindergarten all the way through high school here. What I'm asking you as a parent is to please focus on moving ahead and stop with this bickering. If you had a group of teachers or your administrative staff, if Ms. Booth went to her folks and they all got into a disagreement like that, or had the same behavior that you all had tonight, how would you feel about that as a board? I'm embarrassed by it. I ask you and encourage you to please straighten up, stay focused, and work together. That's it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, back in the back.
Hi. I would like to say thank you for what he just said. I pretty much feel the same. I don't work here, I don't make any money, but I have volunteered 1,300 hours. I have 3 students. This is my first experience at a board meeting, and
Mine too, and
I
I'm
was
embarrassed as
mortified
can be.
for you. It was sad to watch.
Amen.
I felt a lot of attacks. I don't know anybody up there, so I can say that the most mature person up there was the senior in high school tonight. I felt proud for him. I don't know him, but I felt proud for him. Again, we're preaching the leader in me in our school, and we've got to think win-win. What's best for you is what's best for them. You know, it's got to be a synergized, because this isn't going to work, and it's going to make it bad on our kids, because what you do leads on to them.
It's a
So
ripple
please
effect.
think about our kids and not about yourselves, because it's not a race for you, it's for them. So just please think about them. The money is always going to be a problem. Money is the problem of everybody. So just get over that. The audit, I appreciate the audit, because everybody goes through audits in life, you know. The banks, my mother's an auditor for US Bank. She audits all the time. Everybody goes through audits. I appreciate that. But what's done is done. There's nothing that can be done about it. We're moving on. We've fixed the problem. Let's move on to the next big rock. You know, let's quit concentrating on those small rocks that overfill us and go with the big rock. Let's move on past the money and just remember the kids, because that's our end game there, not the board.
Thank you. Okay, Ms.
I have one more question. How much waste do we have?
A lot, but there's nothing I can do about it.
But
We
you
are-
can't have any value, money value put on how much? I have a
Oh.
reason for asking.
Thousands, because with the new regs that started, when we started school this year, when in fact July the 1st, the kids have to take a fruit at breakfast. And it all gets thrown in the trash, and fruit is very expensive.
Okay, no, I'm getting right
No,
there.
we
I
cannot
just need
do
to know.
that.
Can't take it back.
No, and you can't give it out to nobody.
Thank you.
Yeah, they can give it to another kid.
Beg your pardon?
They can give it to another kid. But we can't resell it.
Okay, if there's nothing else, nobody else has any more questions.
I just had one about the basketball team. I am kind of upset. I'm a driver. I work in cafeteria for our kids.
And as a community, I think it's important that we support our kids.
I agree with you all, and I'm all for taking the whole day off Friday if they win,
Tomorrow night.
Tomorrow night.
Yes.
If they win tomorrow night, I am all for taking the whole day
Because
off.
honestly, there's not enough subs to get subs for everybody
Well,
that
we
wants
have
to
to
go.
take the day off, we won't need it. So, but, that's not on the agenda, but I would like to, can I make that a motion, Mr. Crawford?
Well, you would have to amend the agenda and include it as an agenda item. Maybe you could just, and that's one alternative. A second alternative would be to ask that your superintendent reconsider the whole thing informally. That's up to you guys. It's your call here. If that's what the board's feelings are, that's up to the board.
I agree, and I've talked to several people, and Mr. Huber and I have talked back and forth also. My children grew up watching Beth Williamson, Kyle Booth, all that whole bunch. My kids grew up watching them. My kids were in the stands with no shirts on and caps written across them. And then it was time for my children to play. And Mr. Huber knows how I feel, so all my children were there playing. Then it just is, it's a community pride.
Yeah, it is.
And I kind of wonder if we would even be at, what are we supposed to be at, 85%, 88? What's that, what is it that? 85. So I'm kind of wondering if we would even be at 85.
From everybody that I've heard, a lot of people are wanting to go, but a lot of people are like me, they're dedicated. And if Mr. Huber says we're having school, I'll be here, I won't be in Frankfurt.
Well, I'd like to add.
I prefer to be in Frankfurt.
We have normally done this. if I'm not mistaken, because I've gone to some of those
We
games.
have.
When I drove the school bus for the school. If I don't do that anymore, Chance, you're going to put that down. But yes, when our team, in order to honor our team, we've taken that day off when they play during the day. And I think we ought to do it again, and I would like to ask Mr. Huber if he would do that. Mr. Zimmer.
I teach in the 8th grade, and we're anticipating probably not having enough students to do a full teaching.
How many people in this room have been to a girls' basketball game this year? How many people would you say are typically in the stands at a normal home girls' basketball game? 200, less?
Less,
Less.
because they don't support our girls like they do.
So
our guys.
why all of a
So that
sudden?
they will support when they are at a tournament.
So they'll drive an hour, but they won't drive 10 minutes to come over here and go to a ball game.
This is our community, we know this because we've been here for years and years and we've seen this happen, so yes.
Don't you think that's a double standard?
I don't know what they're.
It definitely, I mean, it definitely is,
are.
because I mean.
Here's the deal.
But
I agree that probably a large portion of the high school students will want to go to the game. And we have told them if they will bring back a ticket, we will excuse their absence for that day. Maybe some middle school kids, but you've got 2 other schools that a very small portion of those kids are going to be out of school. So what are those parents, we're going to imposition those parents, ask them to get, I mean, as many of you are all sitting here say that you want to go, I guarantee you, once I say we're going to cancel school, I'll have just as many parents in here mad because I'm canceling school.
I agree with that, but I do have a 2nd grader and a 5th grader, and they miss very few games.
And they'll be
Boys or
there.
girls.
We will be there.
I have a 3rd grader, and we'll be there.
I have no doubt. I have no doubt that there'll be a bunch of people from the community there. My problem with this whole decision is, if you're gonna drive to Frankfurt and support them in the tournament, you ought to have been showing up at the home games and supporting them here. And maybe next year we set a goal. We say if we get X number of people at every home game supporting the girls, then yeah, it makes sense for us to call off school for the
They
tournament.
may not have a good team next year. They gotta win a lot of games to get there.
Are any of you all gonna go and support them?
Yeah, I'll be there tomorrow night, yeah, absolutely.
And Friday if they win?
Friday, if I need to be in a classroom covering for a teacher, because we don't have enough subs, and I'll be in there teaching math or science someplace.
So
Can you cover the cafeteria for me?
Can you drive?
You're asking a lot. No, I don't have a CDL. Yes,
Go
ma'am.
ahead. Yes,
I
ma'am.
worked with the middle school football team for 3 years when Steve was head coach. A lot of times that's the only time a parent will go out, which I agree. But why slight the kid because that's the only time its parents go out? I mean, that's not the kid's fault, and a kid wants to see his parent there.
And we've told all the parents of players that they get first priority on subs, so that they can get out of here and go watch their kids play.
Okay, if there's no more
I do
comments.
have a question back to that. I know you said high school if they write your ticket. Rachel and I, we have
Yeah,
younger
yeah, I'm
children.
sorry, any
So
any student that
because I
brings
can
back
tell
any
you the
ticket.
Jones kids won't
Yeah,
be
yeah,
here
any
Friday.
ticket, any student, I didn't mean high school
So,
specifically, but any student that brings back a ticket, we're giving an excused absence.
How about the teachers?
Okay, since he's
We
not
can't afford to let
agreeing,
every
can the
teacher
board
go.
decide?
What'd you say?
Then you gotta amend then you gotta amend the board meeting.
Can we just amend the meeting, the board minutes and go over them? Since he's not agreeing?
He's not the president, we can't veto him, override his veto.
I didn't make this decision in isolation, okay? I've talked to other superintendents about what their plans are. I've talked to, first person to tell me this idea was our athletic director, because he's gone through this himself with his teams. And his suggestion was, his advice to me, the superintendent, was there was no need to cancel school because the attendance would be fine, and that some people are overestimating the fan base, and that in general, district-wide, attendance would be okay. So when I listened to my athletic director, I said I didn't make this decision in isolation. I listened to my athletic director and some other superintendent friends of mine. But if it's that important to the community, I'm willing to listen to the board and
It's not a board decision. It sounds to me like a
He's putting
superintendent
it right back
decision.
in your lap.
You know, in years past, I know for a fact that the boys basketball coaches have all taken the whole tournament weekend off, along with their spouses.
I'm
think
sorry,
we-
So I don't know if
we-
they're doing that this time or not in the boys play.
I think we stated that already.
they're not playing. I don't think.
No, the
No.
girl, the girl.
Regardless if we go to
Yeah.
state, during the
They
tournament, they go
They
down
go.
and watch the tournament.
Yes.
Oh, okay. I didn't
Every year.
understand- I didn't understand that.
We let the football coaches did it. They went to the state tournament.
Whether we play or not.
Whether we play or not.
Yes.
Not only the basketball coaches, but the ADs
The ADs did not go to the,
did last year.
to the football. I'm just
They
speaking
went
of
to
what.
basketball
what
games
happened.
last year.
I don't know.
Becky, I didn't get you out, buddy. You don't know that.
Okay.
I'd be lucky to get you out of that.
Consent agenda.
All right, is there anybody else that has anything to say to the board? Thank you. All right, moving on.